Hi, this is Healthfully Speaking, and I'm your host, Dr. Brenda Andrieu, a psychologist in the Middlebury area. Today, I am very pleased to have Jennifer Barker, a mediator, and that's just one of the many hats she wears. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, nice to be here, Brenda.
Now, you're a mediator.
I am a mediator. I have a private practice as a divorce and family mediator in Addison County, and I coordinate the Addison County Family Court Mediation Project.
What is that?
Which the mediation project was set up about a year and a half ago as an alternative for people who are getting divorced to work out a divorce agreement without fighting. It's an opportunity for them to sit down face to face.
But people who are divorcing always fight.
Yes, but it's possible to fight fairly. It's possible to have peace among enemies. And that's particularly true if a couple has children. Mediation gives them an opportunity to talk about the children's needs and what kind of future they'd like to create on behalf of the children, if not on behalf of themselves.
Can you really get them around considering their own revenge and spitefulness to think about the children? Because, I look at a lot of soaps, and what you see are people using kids, to spite the other person.
There are different stages that we all go through getting divorced.
Okay.
And the early stages are the most difficult ones because that's when all the anger is present. But it is a process, and some of that anger does begin to settle down, and particularly when people have an opportunity to really talk about what they need to say. Mediation isn't about going back into past history and digging it all up again. Mediation is a process for looking at the present, saying this is the situation, this is what is happening now, and this is how I want the future to look that might be quite different from the past.
So in mediation, are you mainly getting into kind of like property settlements rather than dealing with ways of saying goodbye?
Well, property settlement is certainly part of it. But what I have found is that sorting out property, at least in this county where many people don't have a great deal of property, is really not what's complicated. What's complicated is separating each parent's emotional investment in the relationship, separating that out from the kind of future parenting that they each want to have with their children.
Oh, that's interesting. So you help them to see how they can emotionally exist and physically function for the needs of the children and themselves?
And themselves, certainly. So often as a mediator, I'm asking parents what it is in their relationship with their children that they really want to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask a lot of questions about what the children are like, how old they are, what their interests are, what kinds of goals the parents have for their children, to begin to get them to look down the road. Because it's very easy in divorce when there is so much melodrama and so much emotion to stay just focused on right now or focus on the immediate past. But when parents begin to look ahead to their children's adolescence or young adulthood, then they begin to get the kind of perspective that helps them work out agreements that benefit their children. And that's why I do mediation.
What if there are no children?
Well, generally people who have no children, either because they never had them or because their children are grown, often if they don't have an attorney, they go through the divorce process entirely on their own.
So are you saying that there are not the kind of emotional are physical kinds of issues when they're not children, and it's easier to separate?
I would say that 90% of the people I see have children. And sometimes they have children from several marriages. Sometimes one spouse has been a step-parent to one or two or more children for a good many years, in addition to that couple sharing children of their own. And then there are issues involving grandparents, and how do these children get to maintain an ongoing relationship with all of the people who've been in their lives. So as a mediator, I have a chance in a pretty informal situation to ask a lot of questions, to help people focus on what's really important to them. And given that opportunity, many, not all, but many people would rather work out something that benefits their children than keep fighting. It's kind of the matter of, would you rather be right,
Mm-hmm.
or would you rather have peace? And as an old Vermont lawyer I have known said, if you want blood or money, you go to court and fight.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to have peace and work out what is in human interest, then you sit down and mediate.
Now you said you represent the courts, or?
Well, I coordinate the project that is part of the Addison Family Court. There's several in family courts around the state.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a sliding fee service for people who are going through this court to get a divorce.
So would that mean that you would make referrals to other mediators, or do you just handle them all yourself?
I often make referrals to other mediators.
How many mediators do you know of in this area, in Addison County area?
Okay, in Addison County there are 3 or 4 of us. There are also quite a few mediators in Burlington.
How many do you think are in the state, since this program does go throughout
I would
the
say there are
state?
probably 60 or 80 mediators.
And how would someone get in touch with a mediator?
Well, if what they're looking for is someone to mediate a divorce,
Mm-hmm.
they could call their local family court. The other alternative is to call Woodbury College in Montpelier. They have a community dispute resolution center, and they also make referrals. And there's a Vermont Mediators Association, also in Montpelier.
Do you have the number of the Vermont mediators offhand?
Not with me.
Okay, so they could look that up.
I'm sorry, but again, they could call Woodbury College.
Okay,
and
get that number.
And get that information.
Great. How did you get involved in mediating?
Well, I was a family therapist for a long time, and was very frustrated by not being able to help families work on the specific kinds of conflicts that come up when a couple is approaching divorce, or even sometimes in a parent-child situation. As a mediator, I do parent-child mediation as well as divorce mediation. And I realized when I was planning to move back to Vermont after a long absence that I was ready for change personally. I was looking for something different, and mediation is a new challenge for me, and I enjoy it. I enjoy doing it.
So how did you actually get involved, though? Did you take additional training?
Yes, I took additional training at Woodbury. Vermont is very fortunate and unusual to have Woodbury College, because it is one of the few mediation training programs in the country, and it's a very good program.
What is it? Is it a master's degree, or is it a certificate program?
Woodbury offers a certificate.
Okay.
When you complete their program.
What are their requirements for admission into that program?
Well, I don't really know what they are for everyone, because I already had a master's degree in counseling.
Okay.
So I had a solid background,
Mm-hmm.
which made the process a little simpler for me.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's easy to find out if anybody was interested to call
Right.
Woodbury and ask those
Is there a
questions.
certification or licensure for mediators in the state of Vermont?
There isn't licensure or certification anywhere in the country, so far as I know. The Vermont Mediators Association has been doing quite a lot of work to establish standards of practice.
Mm-hmm.
And the family court mediation projects adhere to those standards. And they require both specific hours of training and hours of practice and supervision from a senior mediator.
Oh, that's very interesting. But since you wear many hats,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to talk about some of the other hats that you wear. Why don't you tell us something else that you're involved in?
Well, one of the most challenging projects that I'm involved in these days is right here at MCTV. My daughter and I were watching a talk show program last spring, and as they often are, they were talking about kids. And she said, "You know, Mom, they're always talking about kids, but you never see any kids on these programs."
How old is your daughter?
She's 11.
Okay, she's a kid.
Yeah.
Great.
So I said, "You know, you're right. We should start our own television program. We should have a talk show for girls." And out of that conversation, quite rapidly, Girl Speak emerged. And Girl Speak is perhaps the only television program that is produced by and about girls and girls' interests.
Okay, what have you actually aired the program?
We have taped a program that we're editing,
Okay.
and we have several others that we're planning this winter. It's taken us a certain amount of time for us all to learn how to use the cameras and learn how to use the editing equipment and feel comfortable with the medium.
Uh-huh.
Part of the premise of the program is that all the girls do everything,
Okay.
so that we don't have a star. They all learn how to operate the cameras and operate the computers in the back room.
How many girls are doing this?
Well, it's been ebbing and flowing. We've had as many as 20 and as few as
Ooh.
5.
How old are the girls?
They're all 11 and 12.
Okay, great age.
And it's a great age because you never know what you're going to get with an 11 and 12-year-olds. They have passionate views about the environment and relationship between boys and girls and what their rights are in school and how people ought to dress. And then they can be very silly. And it's a challenging age, and I really have fun with them.
So now you are putting together a program that lasts for how long? The one that you've been editing, is that a half an hour?
Their
hour?
programs will be about a half hour finished. It's hard to tell right now because in addition to having a guest come on or more than one guest, the first program is called Growing Up Female. And the guests included Catherine Nichols, who is the rector at St. Stephen's Church.
So this is an adult they're interviewing?
This was an adult they were interviewing.
Okay.
And a student at Middlebury College.
Okay.
And they were asking questions about, what was it like when you were our age and how have things changed? And so we got quite an age spread because we had 2 11-year-olds and Catherine, and who is our age at least. She's not 11 anymore.
Just 21.
And Christina, who's 20 or 21. So it was a very lively discussion. So the programs have that kind of central format, but the girls are also producing their own creative material, which they call skidagits.
What's that?
And skidagits is basically anything they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It can be as short as 30 seconds, they could be 3 minutes, they could be 5 minutes, they could be made-up commercials. 2 of the girls were taping a commercial about sharpening pencils the other day. They can make political statements, they can read their poetry, sing. They can basically do anything they want. And the point of it is to give them some flexibility in the process, but it also means then editing those short pieces into the larger program. So we're finding that actually getting something finished is
Difficult.
a little bit more of a challenge than we had thought.
But it's a good learning project
It's
for
a
them.
good learning project. And the program's called Girls Speak because in a lot of studies, particularly the recent AAUW studies about the development of young women, there's a kind of cultural brick wall that a lot of girls run into in junior high school. Girls lose their voices very easily.
Yes.
Girls who've been excited about sports and about themselves and playing with computers and loving math and science suddenly become very constrained.
Yes.
And they fuss about their appearance and they don't want to be different. And we call the program Girls Speak because it's very important for girls to keep their voices.
Yes. I can see this program now airing all throughout Vermont, and especially also in the classrooms in the middle schools and the grade schools. This is going to be a big hit. Oh, I can see it nationally now.
Yes, well, so can they. So can they. Yeah.
Right after Healthfully Speaking.
Well, they've got a lot of different subjects they want to work on. One of their plans is to construct a young children's a toy, a large wooden toy that needs to be designed and built with tools and big pieces of wood. We don't know what it's going to look like yet, but they want to build that this winter in a basement, and then they want to give it to one of the children's programs in the community. And they want to tape the construction of it, and then they want to have an interview with an architect, a woman architect, and then tape the giving of the toy and the young children playing on it. They also want to take cameras out on the street and go to the high schools and ask very personal questions.
This might be something that, if you haven't seen the Jennifer's program, by the time you see my program, you might want to call MCTV and request that program be sent to you, your TV station, or to your school. So I think that would be a very good idea. Jennifer, you've got some other things here, and this is a video. Could you tell me about that one?
Well,
could you hold it up so it can be seen?
This is Sharing the Circle. One of my lifelong interests is in mythology and folk tales, fairy tales. I was one of those fortunate children that got read aloud to a lot as a child. And Sharing the Circle is the first of 3 programs of traditional folk tales for children.
Now, are you talking on that?
I'm not talking on this. I produced this. The storyteller who's talking on this is a professional storyteller.
Okay, but you
who does a lot
it.
of performance storytelling. Yes, I produced it.
Now, how did you go about producing that?
Well, I had a good idea, and I set out to find out how to make it happen. And I happened very fortuitously to meet a man who has experience in film production. And we got into a conversation about what's on television for children and our mutual concern for the lack of traditional stories available for children, because folktales are very important for children. children tend to listen to the same folk tales over and over again, and the characters in the folk tale give children clues about how to live in life. And when children grow up without that, they're kind of left like as though they were in a boat without a rudder. So Andrew Silver was a big help for me in producing this. He helped me connect with a television studio in Boston, and I found the storytellers and developed the idea.
So who wrote the stories?
The stories are traditional.
Okay.
Anansi in the story box is a West African story. The Chinese Stonecutter is a Chinese story, and Molly O'Donoghue, which is the other one on this one, is an Irish folktale.
So an international
Yes.
little video
Yes.
about stories. How nice.
Folktales are both have the essence of the culture that they grew out of, but there is in story tales and fairy tales a universal quality. Children anywhere in the world can listen to somebody else's folktale and recognize themselves.
So
in it.
if somebody wanted to buy that, could they contact you?
They could contact me. That would be
Okay,
the
and
simplest.
we'll give your name and telephone number before the end. And speaking of folk tales, this is...
Should I hold that up? This is The Goddess Within.
Now, what about that book?
Okay, well, do we have another hour here? The Goddess Within is, the subtitle is A Guide to the Eternal Myths That Shape Women's Lives. And in this, I and my co-author, Roger Woolger, explored the stories of 6 of the most famous of the Greek goddesses. And we were looking at them in this from the point of view of the different spheres of authority that those goddesses have within the Greek culture, and because we inherit in this culture so much from the Greeks in our own consciousness. Myths are like mirrors that we can look at ourselves in, and a goddess is ourselves writ very large, so that we can get a sense of ourselves in a much larger kind of context. In The Goddess Within, we explore the myth of Demeter, who's the mother. Demeter is the goddess of the grain and the ripe earth. She's also the mother of the maiden, Persephone, who's stolen away from her. Persephone is abducted into the underworld, and when she disappears from life, she's a child. She spends a period of time in the underworld, and then mysteriously she reemerges as a queen. And something's happened. She's changed. And she reflects to us the part of ourselves that dies and is reborn, is constantly transforming.
My daughter would love this book. She used to read these kinds of Greek mythology tales all the time.
Well, they live in us. These are archetypes, and they're recognizable. Others that we talk about in here are Artemis, who's the goddess of the hunt. She's a virgin goddess, which for the Greeks meant she was not married. Psychologically, that makes her very independent. Artemis is a very prominent goddess in Vermont. She avoids putting on pantyhose and getting all dressed up and being in city places and social situations as much as she can. She'd rather be out splitting wood or feeding her goats or cross-country skiing. Then there's Athena. Athena is very obvious, probably at Middlebury College. You know Athena. Athena is the warrior goddess, but she's also the goddess of the city-state. She's she's a professional. She's an intellectual often, a student. She writes books. Then there's Hera, and Hera is a very interesting goddess because she and Persephone, between them, describe feminine power. Persephone is the deep inner power of internal transformation, but Hera is about worldly power. For the Greeks, her power was derived through her marriage to Zeus. But in the much older tradition, Hera was the priestess queen, and her power, her true power, was co-opted with the emergence of the patriarchy. So when we read about Hera, we experience her as being very angry, very bitter, because her marriage has taken something away from her. We often experience her in the modern world as being the president's wife. First lady, present first lady accepted. She's an interesting new wrinkle on the whole scheme of things, but Nancy Reagan was very much a Hera woman. And one of the things that we say in this is that all of these goddesses exist in all of us as women, and in less obvious ways in men as well. And different experiences in our lives, different times in our lives, bring one goddess forward and another one might recede. When we're in college, Athena is often a very prominent goddess. And then you're working along on a graduate degree or in your career, and all of a sudden you fall in love, and there's Aphrodite, the goddess of physical love and of beauty. And Aphrodite's not particularly concerned at all with matters of intellect. But perhaps when the woman gets married, Aphrodite begins to recede and Demeter begins to emerge. So there's an ebb and a flow with the goddess. And one of the points that I make is that it's a challenge for all of us as women to bring all of them to consciousness, to understand how they operate in our lives,
yes,
how they influence us, and to allow them to have a dialogue, to mediate, going back to the mediation, to permit that kind of dialogue amongst themselves so that they each have a voice in our lives, so they each are allowed to contribute.
So we have our own Joseph Campbell right here in Middlebury, in the voice and form of Jennifer. That's wonderful. So someone wanting to know more about all the different skills, and I'm sure there's more that you haven't shared with us. You're just wonderful. How can they get in touch with you? Can you give us a telephone number?
Well, they can call me at at the Middlebury Mediation Center.
Okay.
And that number is 388-3212.
Do you also do storytelling yourself?
I have, but I like to listen to storytellers because, you see, I think being a true storyteller is a calling.
Uh-huh.
And while I appreciate it and I like to tell stories, it hasn't had that focus in my life.
Well, I was thoroughly captivated by your stories just now. Well, anyway, thank you, Jennifer, for coming on Healthfully Speaking, and thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Hi, this is Healthfully Speaking, and I'm your host, Dr. Brenda Andrieux. Tonight's guest is Ronna Mortenson and her mom, Christina Lambert. I'm glad to have you both today. Roma, you do a different kind of body work, is that right?
Yes, I do. I do massage therapy, but in addition to that, I do resonant kinesiology. And that's kind of a mouthful. Resonant kinesiology is a type of body work that is very gentle and very compassionate and asks permission for working with the person. I demonstrate that a lot easier than I say it.
Okay, from what I guess this is a different way I'm hearing about kinesiology. My first knowledge, well, one of my first knowledges of kinesiology was with my daughter. She studied dance at New York University. And part of that master's degree program was kinesiology. And, you know, I didn't get the part about asking permission for. And she was saying something about the way in which you hold your head and, you know, this person who I guess was, had some kind of a physical problem. And to straighten out himself, he developed this technique of kinesiology.
Well, kinesiology is working with the movement of the body. Resonant kinesiology works with resonating with another person. When I work, or when anyone with this method works, we feel where we are and how our body feels to us and how our emotional state is. And then from here we include another person. We call that inclusive attention, so that we're paying attention to ourselves first and then including another person, so that we can tell a difference between what is going on with us and what is going on with them. The way we do that is through touch. And the way I do it, I add massage to this too, because I have studied massage besides resonant kinesiology. We do this with sound, which is a whole interesting type of thing that a lot of body workers don't use. And we do this with movement. If I'm working with your arm, for an instance, and I'm using my whole body and coming from a ground, or from the way you see that I'm working, or the way I'm sitting, is moving from my base or my ground, or being really grounded. And I can feel when your shoulder, say, is not working, that's not quite the way I should say it perhaps, is not moving how much as it could. There'll be a little glitch or something in there, and I can feel that. And then I'll work with that very gently and help it relax, and then see if that moves again, so that my whole body can feel this movement within yourself.
There are a couple of things that I think are interesting that you said, starting with your own body, and that kind of reminded me somewhat of maybe Buddhist philosophy of getting in tune with your own self. And then what you were saying about sound.
That is intriguing.
And I was wondering, oh God, did she bring sound? And that would have been good. What kind of sound do you use?
Let me address just the other one first,
Okay.
about the Zen, just for a moment, because the sound usually takes a little longer to explain. It does sound like the Zen meditation and being present with myself and helping the other person be present with where they are. Present with their breathing, present with having their attention go inside and feel where I am. With the regular massage therapy that I learned, I'm doing something with the body, perhaps like this, but I'm not asking the person to be present with me. With the resonant kinesiology, I'm asking the person to be present with myself when I'm doing that, so that a person can feel in their body changes happening. If a person comes in with a certain place that doesn't move, or they're curious about something in their body, curious about a movement or about how things work for them, then I can work with that and teach them to be present. In being present with yourself, being present with myself, then movement happens already with just being present.
It sounds like a kind of awareness.
Yes, yes, it is. It gets to be a very deep awareness. And from that awareness leading to change, then a great healing can come for people. And because my awareness goes into my body, and I help you with your awareness, changes will come about. So it's a form of education, really. So this is a body work really based on the educational model instead of the medical model, which is pretty much my background before I started with the body work, because I'm an RN.
Okay, I'm going to find out about that later, but
Okay,
now I'm
the
still
sound.
wondering about the sound.
Sound is different wavelengths. And our body also is different wavelengths. When people invented the electron microscope and started zeroing in on the body, they found not matter as what we call this here, but they found different wavelengths of energy, so that I can use sound to move different things in the body and resonate in different places in the body, because the body itself is energy movement. And I can use sound as an energy movement and match and work with the body that way. Different sounds will resonate in different cavities of the body. Different sounds will resonate in, let's say, sinuses, which a lot of us have a little problem with this time of year. And maybe lower sounds with a longer wavelength will resonate in larger cavities. And there's a little something just beyond that with sound, which has fascinated me about Susan Borg's teachings, as one of my teachers in Burlington. She runs a place called Body Music there and gives classes. I took the 2-year class, a training class with her. That is listening with everything that I have, my hands, my body, feeling the place in the person, and listening for its sound, and opening my mouth and letting its sound come through me. And having the person themselves, if they can be aware of the sound themselves, to make that sound from their shoulder, or make the sound from their sinuses, or make the sound from their throat. And it's not singing per se, but it's different kinds of sounds. What happens with different kinds of sounds is that there's a quality that you can get that 2 sounds will come together in overtones, and those 2 overtones will set up a harmonic resonance, and that harmonic resonance can help open that area and help heal that area.
So the sound is not necessarily listening to music, but the sound coming
it's the
from
sound coming
the being.
from myself or from the person themselves.
I
yes.
see. Okay. I was ready for music.
This is music of wonderful proportions, because it comes from the body itself. It's like this kind of sound from the body is like what authentic movement is for movement for the body. Of feeling the body, where would the body like to move? This is, what would the body like to sing? You want a demonstration, I suppose?
First, tell me about colors. Does that fit in there?
Colors. Colors is a very visual thing, and I happen to be a visual person, but there are a lot of people that I work with that learn from the kinesthetic mode, or the touching mode, or the listening, hearing mode. Different people learn things in different ways, and of course we're basing this on the educational model. So some people will see colors, will see different colors around themselves or around other people. There are some therapists that work with the resonant kinesiology that do see colors. I don't see colors around people or when I work.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So back to, you were talking a lot about the arm,
Yes.
doing things with the arm.
Sure.
What's the purpose of that again? Is to get, if the arm is out of, or if the whole body is out of
Balance?
balance, yes.
Shall we say? Well, I said arm because, as an example, it could be anywhere. It could be I work with a person that has not have her voice because she was told when she was very young not to say things and no, you're not worth listening to in so many words. So she has a very tiny voice now and can't speak up for herself very well. So I work in this area with her. So I don't work with her arm per se, but I work with this area. Of course, there are people that come to me for relaxation, and I work full body massage and do oil massages also. But we're talking more about the resonant kinesiology right now.
So if you were to work with my arm, what would that would just be for working with my arm, or would
that would be a demonstration of how I would approach an arm, and so that the people at home can see what I'm doing and perhaps do a little bit on their own arm. Because I also work on myself. And my life work is to learn about myself and become my own best friend.
Yes.
And understand myself. And as my awareness grows, then I can be in that awareness with other people.
Okay, but again, if you were to work on my arm, that would be just basically for my arm, or it would, if you worked on my arm, it would help balance the rest of me.
I understand what you're saying. There's a concept that I learned in Job's body about, the way he described it was having a piece of fabric, and as you pull on one piece of the fabric, it echoes all the way through the rest of it. The body is that way. The spirit and the mind and the body are so intertwined that there's really no separation. The mind, as we learned it, as I learned it a long time ago as an RN, is not just contained here, but they found that the mind comes into the body itself. Memories are stored in the body itself, not just in the mind. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, do you want to show the folks at home how this would happen and how they could maybe learn to do it for themselves?
Sure. Let's see. May I touch your arm?
Sure.
Okay. Oh, my hands are cold. I apologize for that. Now, if you can give me your arm, that's it, and let me support that. Okay. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm feeling the weight of your body. And what I'd like you to do is be aware here of your forearm. And those at home might want to hold their own forearm and be curious. Be curious and very respectful of yourself as you touch. And feel inside that you can maybe even feel both the two bones that are in your arm. One here on the side. And I'm doing the back side here, so you probably can't see it very well. And there's another one, right? I'm going to turn your hand over if that's all right. Right here. And then the other one is up here. So if you would let me turn your arm if you can, that's it. What I'm feeling for is how those bones move. And I'm feeling for inside, between the bones, and how that feels, how tight that is. And I'm also pulling very, very gently on the wrist. And there's a whole series of bones in the wrist. And I'm moving them gently. And I'm feeling with my own body, that's all right, you can let that go there. Yeah, That's it. I'm feeling with my own body how that movement, how her body is, or your body is taking that movement. And the body, now I'm going to give the body a voice here for just a minute. What I hear in the body is that this hand likes to move forward, but it's not quite sure if it wants to move backwards with just me. It kind of takes over right about there. So, I think I'm supporting it well enough, yeah. There you go. And then the wrist kind of wants to take over. When I go forward like this, there, that released now, that let go. And when I go back, the wrist is not quite sure, it's kind of, likes to kind of hold on a little bit. And then as I go forward again, now as you feel your own arm at home and your own wrist, see if you can get your wrist to relax into your other hand. You have a mover hand and you have a relaxed hand. And see how relaxed you can get your hand to be. It took me a while, and I'm going to turn this right over like this. There you go. It took me a while to allow myself to be relaxed with myself. And I started with my jaw, which is a little hard. It took me 2 weeks to allow myself to be with my jaw and allow myself to move it. Now the idea of this is, if you can relax with me, you can relax with you. And as we relax and things expand, more blood can go through, the nerves can go through easier, and it feels good. What are you experiencing here as I'm going through your hand like that? How does that feel to you?
It feels almost like your hand goes to sleep. Think about sometimes, like my foot, sometimes when the blood well, I guess it's not supposed to feel like that, but sometimes when the blood circulation is cut off, you know, you're sitting up high or something, and maybe you've crossed your legs or you have it, and all of a sudden you get ready to step down, and you feel like, you know, it hurts because the circulation is stopped.
Are you experiencing hurt here a little bit?
No,
okay.
But just...
Well, let me move this here like this. There may be a feeling, because this is a hard surface, that might be. And what I feel here in your shoulder is did you feel the shoulder take over right there?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Now, let your arm be in my hands and be fully supported by my hands as much as you can. Yeah, there, yes. There, I felt that go down. I felt that drop. Oh, that's beautiful. Good job. What are you feeling in your shoulder right now? As I'm moving it just a little.
Well, I know I have some tension in my shoulder.
How's that feel now?
That feels fine.
Okay.
See, this kind of stuff brings out the child in you.
Oh, how does it do that?
Because then you're totally, you're not in control of yourself. You're totally dependent. I mean, my arm is totally, you're holding my arm up.
Right.
you know, you could be holding my whole body up.
There's an interesting thing here, because you are in total control.
Uh-huh.
You can move your hand
Right.
anytime you want.
Right.
And you're choosing to be relaxed and
Right.
be supported by me.
Right.
Right. So in that way,
Uh-huh.
yourself is very much in control of
Uh-huh.
everything that we're doing here. And I'm also keeping it open so that if you would like to move your arm, then you can do that. There is another way of working that when you feel that you would like to move, now take your hand and bring it toward your shoulder. Go ahead. Bring. Okay, and release it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, bring it one more time. Yeah. Okay, and release. Yeah. There you go. Sometimes when you work the body hard, like we just did, and we do it probably 2 or 3 more times, then the muscle will completely relax, the ones that we do. Now, how does this compare with the other one? How does that feel compared to your other arm?
The blood certainly feels, I mean, I feel a tingling in that arm that I don't feel in this one.
A temperature change or anything like this?
Well, your hands are much cooler than mine, so
they
I
are.
would think that, you know, this would be cooler than this one, and it is.
When I get working with people, my hands get quite warm. It's under lights that these things happen.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Now, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I thought that was quite interesting, what you've done. I think it can be quite relaxing. I guess I would like to talk a little bit more about what you do.
Okay,
Okay.
sure.
I think you were talking a little bit earlier about the kinds of things you do in nursing homes with your mom. And Mrs. Lambert, right?
Yes.
Okay. What kinds of things has your daughter takes you with her when she goes to nursing homes sometimes?
Yes, she does.
Uh-huh. What kinds of exercises do you do?
She starts on my body to relax and show the others what her work is like on doing a body work.
Uh-huh. So she kind of uses you as a subject, like she was just demonstrating with me. And but she uses more of your whole body, does she?
I think so, don't you?
We
Yes.
work with feet and with
Yes.
hands in different places. That's a little different than we work a little differently with the elderly when we go there, the Project
Oh,
Independence.
right, you're right.
Yeah. Mom has been working with me with different people also in a reflexology workshop of hands and another reflexology workshop of feet. So those are the times that we demonstrated.
So you do reflexology in addition to the kinesiology and the massage.
I've had workshops in reflexology. So I can't say that I'm a reflexologist by any means, but I do some work with that. And that was let's say a foot massage workshop that we did, not reflexology. I can't claim to be that.
Do you enjoy these workshops?
I certainly do.
Get a
and
lot
it's
of
keeping me young, too.
get a lot of good massages, huh?
Right. It's wonderful.
So you go in nursing homes, and where else do you go?
This is Project Independence that I was referring to, that Mom and I go in once a month, and then we're starting to go in a couple times a month now. And that's doing the exercises. With
That's
the
on
elderly.
the elderly people, which I am.
Well, I hadn't thought of that myself, actually.
So is that just in the Middlebury area, or is it throughout Vermont?
No, it's just in the Middlebury area.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you must see a lot of friends there. Do you know some of the people?
Yes, yes, there's quite a few that come from Weybridge and Cornwall. A few come from Cornwall, and then of course some of the Middlebury I don't know as well, but yes, I do know quite a few.
So you have to have them watch this program and see you on TV. Now you said that you were trained as a nurse.
I am.
Okay, and that was a traditional training
Yes.
program.
I started that right out of high school.
So you worked as a nurse for how long?
I have a current license, so I'm still working as a nurse, only it isn't the traditional nurse. I worked as a traditional nurse for probably 25 years, 25 years, somewhere through there. Intensive care units.
Okay, so you are still, you're self-employed as a nurse or as a...
I work as a massage therapist, but what happens is that, well, people will come to me sometimes after they've had accidents and want to massage, and I ask them to go to their doctor and get a permission first to do that. And then I work with the trauma that I can work with and help the body relax around what's happened for them. I've also discovered different lumps on people and had them go to the doctor, refer them to their doctors, so that I don't do just the massage and resonant kinesiology, but I also am checking them with the idea of, as a nurse would do. If they have questions about brushing their teeth, they have questions about blood pressure, I have a blood pressure cuff, and take their blood pressure. So I've been asked to be with people that are dying, and I've done that. I've worked at Vermont Respite House for a while, officially. So,
what would you do with a patient that is terminally ill?
Well, a person that's terminally ill, I hate to call them patients. They come to me as clients or students, and they learn. There was one student that I had that was dying with cancer, and I worked with her up in...
I really like that. I really like that because, you know, a lot of times we think in terms of if we're such of a certain age or if we're dying, that life is over and we have this termination way of, but you're saying, you're still a student, you're still learning.
Yes.
You know, even though you're getting ready to make a transition in your life, you're still learning. It may be the last day you're here, but we've got something to teach you. I like that. That's really good. It's a positive way of going.
I worked with this lady within a week of her dying, and we learned about how her body was acting with the disease. We learned about the healthy parts and the parts that were pain-free and celebrated those.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And at the Vermont Respite House, I've worked a short period of time, a couple of months, only once a week this summer. And it was wonderful working with these people. I'm such a hands-on person.
Hey, that's fun.
That this person didn't want hands-on.
Oh.
He wanted me to sit, and I sat with him for 20 minutes and breathed with him. And his mouth was going like this, and I did that, my mouth with him like this. And he was quite angry. He was a person that had AIDS, and he was quite angry. And by the time I left, he had a small smile for me and said thank you. And I left, and that was just sitting with him. And remember what we said about being present, and being present with someone, and being present with me, and then including someone else. That's what he wanted, was me to be with him and completely, and my attention completely with him, and not with touch like I'm so used to, but just sitting with him.
Well, that's really wonderful. That's a good place, I think, for us to start winding down. Roma, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, oh, you know what? I forgot. What is this here for?
Well, this is a friend of mine, and what I like about this stone is, remember what I was talking about the body, how if you touch one place, it touches the other places? Well, this kind of shows that for me. It's integrated. And if I am sitting on one side, and you're sitting on the other side, part of us is together.
Okay, that's wonderful.
And part of us is together in many, many different layers.
Yes, it's wonderful.
So that's what I liked about that.
So, Roma, if somebody wants to call you, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, I work out of the Battelle building, number 204 in the Battelle building, and my number there is 388-1801.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for coming in.
Could I mention, do I have time to mention one thing?
We'll try.
Okay. What I'd like to show you, which I'm really excited about, is a book that has been done by two of my teachers, Susan Gallagher Board and Dick Nesson, who still lives in Middlebury. Susan moved out into Burlington some time ago. And a tape goes with this, and they have another book also. It's Sing Your Body, and it's very easy for any person to learn. So the words are very easy.
So it's the Migraine Puzzle Book by Susan Borg.
Yes.
Okay.
And a tape with it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And thank you again for watching Healthfully Speaking, and we'll see you next time. Hi, this is Healthfully Speaking, and I'm your host, Dr. Brenda Andrieu, a psychologist in Middlebury, Vermont. Today we have as our guest Dr. John McPartland. Hi, John.
Pronounced it correctly.
Ha! You thought I was going to slaughter it like I do all the time, right?
Good under pressure.
Fooled you. No, I'm really bad under pressure. But anyway, John and I have worked together here in Middlebury. John is an osteopathic physician. John, what's an osteopathic physician?
I should have guessed you were going to ask me that. Should I make this a long answer or a short answer?
Well, why don't you make it the best answer you can, and then I'll pick it apart.
Okay. An MD about 150 years ago named Dr. Still from Missouri was getting tired of the way medicine was going back then, and he was specifically upset with government interference in medicine. And he didn't like the use of medicines, so he developed a non-drug system of medicine that he termed osteopathy, and that was 150 years ago. He coined the name. He was known as a good spinal manipulator. He would do manipulation that we now often consider chiropractic. But he started it about 20 years before the first chiropractors, and he called it osteopathy. Long answer.
So, do you still get into spinal manipulation?
Yeah, we're all trained in that when we're students. We go through 4 years of school after college, just like the MDs, and we dedicate about 4 or 5 hours a week to training and manipulation when we're students.
Mm-hmm. So you also said something about Dr. Steele not believing in medication.
Correct. He didn't use any medicines when he fully developed his osteopathy.
Okay. But now what's your degree? I mean, it's not MD, it's
DO,
DO, okay.
Doctor of Osteopathy.
Okay, but you can prescribe medication.
Yeah.
So isn't this like a conflict?
So what happened in 150 years? At the turn of the century, when we were osteopaths were trying to become licensed in different states, we found problems in that the government was comparing our education to the MDs, and they said, well, you don't have the same education. You don't learn pharmacology, for instance, the study of medicines. So they integrated the study of medicines into the osteopathic curriculum, and over the years, especially after A.T. Still died, more and more osteopaths chose to start using medicines. And medicines have improved in the last 150 years. Back when A.T. was around, they were using mercuric chlorides, they were using arsenic, they were using nux vomica, they were using a lot of very toxic things with only a modicum of benefit. And when the antibiotics started being used, more and more DOs saw the efficacy of these drugs. So, yeah, as things come around, more and more DOs started using drugs, pharmaceuticals, to the point that it's become kind of difficult to tell the difference between a DO and an MD sometimes.
Yeah, you know, what you're saying about the path that osteopathic physicians took, it really rings familiar to me about what's going on in psychology. Because right now, there is a branch of psychologists that are actively fighting to get prescription privileges for psychologists. And I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like a familiar story.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're saying that osteopaths have continued and medicines have improved. What kinds of things do osteopaths do now?
Just about anything an MD does. We're back in the late 60s, the AMA finally, the American Medical Association, finally gave its blessings to the AOA, the American Osteopathic Association, and pronounced us DOs equal to MDs. And
what year was that?
That was in the 60s.
Really?
Yeah, matter of fact, 1962, in the state of California, they announced this, and the California legislation then turned around and abolished the DO degree and converted all those DOs to MDs.
Oh, really?
So that kicked off another panic in the DO world, because we still like to consider ourselves a little bit different than MDs. We like to consider ourselves perhaps a little more holistic.
Uh-huh.
Our emphasis on musculoskeletal sets us apart, and our emphasis on primary care medicine. So we've wanted to stay as a distinct form of medicine apart from the MDs, and when they passed this law in 1962 abolishing the DO degree, that ended up going to the Supreme Court, and it was reversed.
Okay.
So now there's DOs and MDs.
Again.
Again.
So when you say primary care medicine, there's a difference there. What do you mean by that?
Primary care is the big buzzword we're all hearing right now in the healthcare legislation that's going on. Primary care involves family practitioners or general internal medicine people or pediatricians that see a wide range of patients of all ages for all problems. The kind of doctor you would see first for a problem. You wouldn't go to a subspecialist first. Mm-hmm. A subspecialist like a neonatal orthopedist or something like that is not a primary care physician. And there's too many right now in the United States, there's too many subspecialists and specialists in this country. We need to not convert, excuse me. We need to emphasize primary care more, which DOs consider themselves in the driver's seat in that one.
So you're a primary care physician.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so what kind of patients do you accept in? Just, does that mean primary care you'd accept general, family, individual?
You name it. When I was doing my training in family practice, I really did see everything from a child 7 months before it's born to a person on their deathbed. I think a lot of primary care people, even though we're still primary care, we tend to kind of leave the neonatal stuff to pediatricians, and some of the end stage, the real serious geriatric problems to geriatricians, which is actually what I've done. Of course, my family practice residency director would probably kill me for saying that, because most family practitioners, first out of training, are true believers in taking care of all patients, all ages.
So what would set your practice aside from the other general practitioners in the Middlebury area? How is yours different?
Well, for one thing, I do spend more time looking at a person, no matter what they come in for. I spend more time talking to them and trying to divine their attitudes about whatever brought them in. Not just the symptom, but the person, and that whole mind-body thing, to talk more about what's going on inside their head, and even touch on some spiritual concerns, and that's the holistic part. There are some MDs in town who are very holistic, and they do this too. So then I could fall back on the answer, well, I also do some adjustments on people for almost any problem that comes in.
You mean like chiropractic adjustments?
Similar,
Similar.
but not quite the same. We do some things in common, such as the cracking of the joints, the popping noises, and they do some things that are a little bit different. They tend to use gadgets a little bit more than MDs. They have their drop tables to induce cracking and activator guns and such. And the osteopaths tend to spend more time on soft tissue, using your hands and working on, say, the skull, for instance, which most chiropractors don't spend a whole lot of time working on. So that's not a very good answer for a complicated subject, the difference between osteopathic manipulation and chiropractic manipulation.
Or other physicians.
Or other physicians.
But, you know, while you mentioned the skull, I have a question to ask you about that. With learning disabilities and some brain injuries or dysfunctions, I've read that some manipulations of the skull can reverse or help the thought processes.
There's been single-blinded studies, clinical studies and publications that show that in a pretty large study group of 1,000 children with learning disabilities. And they found that what's called cranial or craniosacral manipulation does help these learning disabilities. This cranial manipulation, by the way, is not making things pop in the skull. It's a very subtle, gentle, what you're doing is kind of stretching the connective tissue, the skin, connected to the fascia tissue, which is connected to the bone, to the cranium. So it's a very gentle manipulation that hardly looks like anything's going on. And it's a subspecialty within osteopaths, this cranial manipulation. But a woman in California has just been doing marvelous things with children for learning disabilities.
You also do something called acupuncture. Acupuncture and acupressure, is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Acupuncture is using the needles. Acupressure is using thumbs, whatever, some sort of pressure on the same points. It's a Chinese system that's been waxing and waning in popularity since the 70s when it was first brought over. President Nixon, when he went to China, his personal physician was an osteopath. And so when they came back from China, they brought back all these fabulous stories of these mysterious Chinese physicians using skinny little needles to treat all kinds of things.
And so where did you get your training with the
Puncture.
acupuncture? Yes. I kept thinking about the pressure,
The
and I'll ask you about that
the
later.
acupressure, I'll talk about that first, put it in a more of a chronological
okay.
order. Started using acupressure when I was still a student in school, and bought a couple of books on the Japanese form, which is called shiatsu. And when people started trusting me with needles, I started doing rotations in different physicians' offices, learning the acupuncture. And that was I graduated in 1987, so that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a 6-year process. Last year, 1993, I went and spent a month in China and trained in Beijing at a hospital.
With the acupuncture.
With the acupuncture.
So how long are these needles, and how...
I should have brought some in. Some are real little.
Oh, really?
You're talking a matter of millimeters. And in China, they were using something called a wheat straw needle for serious problems like facial paralysis, and
The needles were that big, huh?
they're more like, so yeah.
But they're real thin, even so.
They're thin, but they're still there. They can't be too thin because you have to, move a needle through that much flesh as well. But these are for people that are paralyzed and they can't feel anything anyway. So it was effective, but they would put it in at the corner of the facial nerve here, and it would come out at the corner of the mouth. So this was a pretty aggressive therapy.
Yeah.
It was done in a hospital, actually. Perhaps not something to be done in an office. I have a couple of those needles, but I just use them to threaten patients when they don't do their exercises.
So you prescribe exercises for your patients also?
Yeah, and getting back to differences between different types of physicians, I think most osteopaths put a pretty heavy emphasis on picking the right exercises to do for the right patient with the right problem. Whatever we do in the office will help someone along, and maybe manipulation will help it. Maybe give somebody instantaneous relief, but whatever put them in that position in the first place, chances are is going to come back. And that's where the home exercises help keep them out of my office longer.
So you want to keep them out of your office, huh?
Well, I'm just getting started, so right now actually I wouldn't mind seeing them more often, but yeah, eventually the idea is to empower people to do it themselves.
I want to go back to the acupressure, because you and I have worked together some. I've seen a little bit of what you do, and you have this, with pressure, you have these little beads that kind of go, like you put them sometimes in the ears. Could you talk a little bit about that?
That was something I learned in China last summer, or 2 summers ago. There was a whole nother system of acupuncture that just involves the ear. they have something called a homunculus, which is they mapped out the entire body just over the shape and size of the ear, and they use the ear as a site for treating people. It's kind of handy because you can send somebody home with needles, small needles in their ear, or the seeds, what you're referring to, the beads, these little medicinal seeds. Put them on a little square piece of surgical tape and find the spot. They're almost always reactive. They're called ashi points. They're tender to the touch.
So each point in your ear means something different.
Correct.
And according to where it's placed in your ear would be helping to heal that part. Like one part would be the liver, and one part would be a foot, and it would just help heal whatever part that is.
Correct, and it's beyond the physical. There are points on the ear for anxiety and depression and such.
So, in both ears would. Is one to the left side or right side of the body, or?
I check both and see what I come up with. You might have seen this with people. It became popular about 10 years ago with people who were trying to kick nicotine and finding something to help them through those first couple weeks. And the Shen Men point, which is right about there. Is used frequently for dispelling anxiety and cravings. And you particularly saw me treating a patient with that point.
Yeah.
The seed, I don't know what I'm going to do when I run out, because it's the seed of a Chinese plant that I haven't been able to find anywhere, but I bought a whole kilo of seeds before I came back, so it should be good for a while.
I guess you better contact one of the students from China who's going over there so they can send you some more. Yeah, we have at Middlebury College there are a lot of large Chinese departments, so I suggest you get in touch with them.
I keep in touch with the people back in Beijing too.
Do you?
Yeah.
So a lot of regular practitioners are into I don't know. I'm thinking treatment for cancers, treatment for my aching back, my stomach, Do you get into those kinds of things too?
Yeah, cancer. The first thing you mentioned. Some cancers are imminently treatable with chemotherapy, Hodgkin's, things like that. And I am not going to obstruct anybody's path from proper chemotherapy.
Do you do chemotherapy?
I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't.
So you would refer that person.
Yeah. I'm a true believer, and that's kind of where my place, I think, is as a general practitioner, is to know when to treat and when not to treat and who to direct the patient to.
What about back pain? Is that something you would deal with, or would you refer?
Osteopaths traditionally saw a lot of back pain and musculoskeletal sports medicine, motor vehicle accidents, that kind of thing. And that's where I'm seeing a lot of in Middlebury now that I'm new in town. A lot of people see my name in the phone book and say, aha, great. Oh, my aching back.
You know what I've gotten this feeling that you would really like to deal with people who are involved in sports.
Well, I have. They're a nice bunch of people to work with because they are in a big hurry to get better. So and they if you suggest exercises, they do them. So they're a fun bunch to work with.
They're like, please let me exercise.
Yeah.
Don't put me away. So have you worked very much in this? Like in Vermont with people who are active in sports?
A lot more when I was practicing in Montpelier. I worked with another osteopath, John Peterson, who was an established sports medicine physician up in the capital area. And so when I was working there in '89 and '90, saw a lot more than I am now.
Mm-hmm.
I also did after my family practice residency, I did a 2-year post-residency fellowship in biomechanics, which is, that helps a lot with dealing with structural problems and things like sports injuries.
Did I hear you say biomechanics?
That's the word I use.
Sound like an auto mechanic.
Well, yeah.
What is that?
It's a auto mechanic for the musculoskeletal system.
What do you do? You're just kind of repairing the muscles and you can't, yeah, I guess the skeletons can be repaired, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I should call it the neuromusculoskeletal system because those 3 systems are tied in pretty tight. Neuromusculoskeletal, the nerves. The way nerves function can change the way muscles behave, and as the muscles go, the bones. So they're all pretty closely tied together.
Do you do anything with nutrition, food, what people are eating, taking it into their body that way?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can treat musculoskeletal problems using nutrition. There is an awful lot of nutritional therapy that wasn't taught to us in medical school. We had one class. I remember the first day we came in there, the teacher started haranguing all of the vegetarians in the classroom, and everybody got up and walked out. So our nutritional background wasn't too good in school, but over the years you learn just how important nutrition is, more than just taking your vitamin pills.
Mm-hmm. How many osteopathic physicians are in the state of Vermont?
I would guess there are about 30 DOs in the state. And of that 30, probably about a handful, 5 to 10, actually have chosen to keep up their skills in manipulation and use them on a daily basis.
What are the other ones doing?
A lot of DOs that were trained in the 50s and 60s and 70s chose to subspecialize. It was the period when we were trying to keep up with the Joneses, with the MDs.
Mm-hmm.
And so we lost a lot. DOs lost a lot of their spirit and a lot of their true identity and became subspecialists, which is not, there's nothing wrong with that. Subspecialists
So when they're a
needed.
subspecialist, what are some of them specializing in?
Oh, there is a psychiatrist, there is a neurologist, there's a couple of obstetricians.
So they would just be delivering babies?
Mm-hmm.
Are just
And
prescribing medicines for psychiatric disorders?
Mm-hmm. And there's so much more to be done than just prescribing medicines
Yes.
with these people. And I think DOs in the last 10 or 20 years have realized that, and we're getting back to our roots.
Mm-hmm.
And you're seeing more and more interest in the younger DOs in using nutrition and using herbs, using the musculoskeletal things, manipulation, and the whole holistic flavor is coming back, and that's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever done any work with teenagers?
Yeah, I'm still a teenager myself, so I can relate.
Yeah, could you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, it's a difficult time for all of us.
Uh-huh.
To be there's all kinds of different cues from your body and from society, and it's a difficult time. Body, mind, and spirit are going through changes,
Uh-huh.
and when you're going through changes, it's easier for that tripartite system to break down somewhere. And so it's it's a group of people that could use good holistic care.
Mm-hmm. And you have a pleasant little office. Where is it located?
It's located in the back of my house, 53 Washington Street in Middlebury here. There's no sign up yet. My cousin, the sign maker, is a little slow. So I just gave him a call last week. He said the sign will be winging my way in another 2 weeks, so hopefully I'll have a sign up soon.
And where can they call you?
388-0575.
Glad you know that.
That's right.
Thank you very
and
much.
I'm in the phone book.
Okay, John. Thank you very much for being on Healthfully Speaking. And thank you for tuning in again to Healthfully Speaking, and we'll see you next time. Tonight's guest is a special treat. He is a sidewalk counselor, Mike McHugh.
Yes, that's one of the things I do.
Could you tell me what a sidewalk counselor is?
Well, if you read Joe Scheidler's book, 99 Ways to Save a Baby, sidewalk counseling is the #1 method that's been used since 1973, since Roe v. Wade. We see hundreds of children saved a year at abortion clinics because someone is there to offer an alternative.
So how long have you been doing this?
Since about 1988.
And you're trained as a minister?
You're right.
You have to think about that one, huh? You're not sure.
Well, I get it. I pastor a small church, and I direct the American Rights Coalition, which has a number of pro-life focuses, but one of them clearly is providing alternatives at an abortion clinic sidewalk. As a matter of fact, I think, if I forgot, in my briefcase I've got the picture of one of the children that was saved at Planned Parenthood last summer.
Uh-huh.
And the reason I carry it around is that the mother chose to name the baby after myself and another sidewalk counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And the child was named Austin Michael. and I didn't know about that until about 2 hours after the baby was born. I was invited up to take pictures. The other sidewalk counselor, being a female, was the birth coach.
Uh-huh.
And so, yes, that's definitely one of the things we do, and that is sort of the crowning highlight of the saves that we've had. When a mother changes her mind and chooses to keep life after she's scheduled an abortion, we call that a save.
So, but you said you are a minister at a church.
Yes, Grace
And
Christian Church.
What denomination is that?
We're a non-denominational Bible church.
Okay, so is it that because you're non-denominational, you don't have someone who says you can't do that, or what?
Well, you know,
'Cause it
all
sounds
around the
kinda
country, there are people
controversial.
who are part of denominations. We've had Catholic priests who are obviously part of a major denomination in this state come to the sidewalk and participate. But I personally have a calling, I think, to love our neighbors as ourselves, as any Christian does. My focus is for those that can't speak up for themselves. I have a particular interest there.
Uh-huh. So it came from a natural calling, the sidewalk counseling, and you're being a minister?
Well, when I came to Christ in 1972, that changed my life. That was a major turnaround for me, coming to know Him as Savior and Lord, and growing. I taught high school for a while. I graduated from college, taught high school, and was involved in campus ministry for a number of years, and gradually it evolved into full-time Christian work. and into the planning of a church in 1982 in the Burlington area called Grace Christian Church, which I've been pastor of for ever since then. And I've always had a number of side ministry projects that have grown out of that, and was really gripped by the needs of the unborn in 1988. I had always been an advocate or spoken up for the children, but had never done anything that might be called direct action.
Okay, but now you're in the forefront on it seems like it's bordering on euthanasia, or there was this person, Ron Como, I believe his name was,
Right.
who was in the hospital, and why don't you tell me
Tell me
more
what
about
happened
that?
there.
Yeah, because it seems like he was almost about to die, and
Well, he was. The court ordered basically his death. Having been in the pro-life movement since 1988, I know a lot of pro-lifers around the state. Bennington, Vermont, is a long ways from Essex Junction, but you see, it was November the 11th, the morning of the 11th. Came home from a pastoral ministerium breakfast where the local ministers get together and we pray and we talk and have breakfast. And Frank Hassler, Right to Life, called and he said, "Gee, do you know what they're doing to this guy in Bennington?" I said, "What?" He said, "Well, they're going to dehydrate him to death." And I said, "Well, how do you know that?" And he said, "Well, we heard it over the AP, over the radio." And I said, "What do you think we can do?" And he was getting ready to call some attorneys. And I said, "Well, let me find out what's going on." So I called the Bennington Banner, and they graciously faxed me up a copy of Matt Kelly's article covering the probate court. And indeed, the government was fixing to, had already in the process since November 9th withdrawn food and water from Ronnie Como. And I think the thing that got my attention was A, there was no family involved, that this was the government doing this, and B, I know enough about the mercy killing or euthanasia movement to know that they were pressing the envelope on this guy. The court language, the hospital kept saying he was in a coma. That was a lie. It wasn't true. But the court document said he was slightly above a persistent vegetative state. Well, you could drive a Mack truck through that. I had no idea at the time how large of one. Every abortionist in the state probably thinks I'm slightly above a persistent vegetative state. So I mean, you.
Okay, so weren't there
times you
weren't there also videos of this man moving around and things
Well,
like that? He was supposed to be in a.
Later on, we took some videos. They acted in such bad faith that we took some videos prior to the family getting guardianship. By the grace of God, we intervened, and I went through 3 levels of court in 35 hours, probate court, superior court, and Supreme Court. Norm Smith, we call him the White Knight, he entered in at the Supreme Court level, and thank the Lord that Justice Frederick Allen from home signed an order basically staying the execution of Ron Como. I was able to serve that on the hospital that night, got it from a fax machine, and then because we were able to determine that they had fulfilled the order, I was able to go look for family, and then it was really kind of dramatic. It was never planned this way. Nobody could plan something like this. I tried to find the mother because I believed what the court had said about the father, that he wasn't interested, but that wasn't true. When we found him in Maine, he and the uncle were in tears. We came to court. We drove all through Monday night and ended up at the Supreme Court just before the hearing. There was a hearing set to find out whether or not I had standing to apply for guardianship. The government had lost interest in this guy's life, and I said, as a minister of the gospel, I have an interest. The Good Samaritan law in this state fines you $100 if you don't intervene, and you could have to do a good deed or to save someone who's in need. But that became sort of moot because finding the father, we brought him to the court 5 minutes before the hearing. That changed the hearing. The justices said, all right, let's give the Dupuis a week to go visit this man and see if it's really their son. And then the hospital did the same thing that they did to me and Reverend Goyette. They had police there and wouldn't allow my attorney to go in with the Dupuis brothers. And so there was just bad faith all the way around. And so then when the family heard about it, the other family members heard about it through the media in Massachusetts and got involved. It was looking like they might shift guardianship, but we smuggled a video in and took video of him. So in case they acted in bad faith, we could go to the press and say, and take the story, because it was clear. It was clear from the get-go that they were trying to keep people from seeing him in the condition he was in.
Wasn't one of the arguments, though, that this man had been a drifter and he was in jail and he had tried to hang himself?
Yeah, it was a pretty weak argument. There are people that slice their wrists and hang themselves all the time in this country. That's a cry of help, not a justification for a death sentence. As a matter of fact, I have a number of friends who've made attempts at suicide. Certainly Ronnie Como is no choir boy by any stretch of the imagination, but to starve him to death, to dehydrate him to death, which is a gruesomely, agonizingly painful death. In the Brophy case in Massachusetts, which is the one they used in the Bennington court, the dissenting Justice Lynch described what it's like to die by dehydration.
What are some of those symptoms?
Well, your brain cells dry out and you go into convulsions. Your stomach dries out and you have dry heaves. Your urine becomes so acidic that it burns a hole through your bladder, and it's not. If you could pick a way to die, as the investigative journalist at the Free Press said, that's way down on your list. So
how does something like this how would something like this tie into the health care plan?
Well, when we got involved in this, I didn't see any connection there because that wasn't the focus. All I knew is that the hospital was fixing to eliminate an inconvenient person. But clearly, if resources are a justification for hospital-assisted suicide, or whatever you want to call it, as resources obviously dwindle under government health care and we begin to ration them, quickly the right to die is going to become the duty to die. The thing I'm concerned about is that no one learns the lesson of Nazi Germany because everybody remembers where it ended up. They don't remember how it started with the medical community. And
so what were some of the ways in which it started with the medical community, as far as you know?
In Germany?
Yes.
The abandonment of the handicap, of wounded soldiers, of people that they saw as unfit, experimentation, and they just began eliminating people. At that particular time, it was the gospel of the new German man, and anybody that didn't fit in was fair game.
So you're saying you see some parallels?
Well, I think that's the dilemma, is that we can always see the differences, but people don't see the parallels. They don't see the initial beginnings. We have tremendous advances in medical technology that have brought changes in our medical capacity, which has given those who disdain the abiding principles of the Hippocratic Oath and the Sixth Commandment an opportunity to smuggle changes in ethics into ethics committees, and which is allowing for the euthanizing of inconvenient people, like Ronnie Como. And it's not, Brenda, it is not isolated. We had a press conference yesterday in Burlington, and we had 4 women testifying to how they had to fight to save their loved ones. We had a woman, Rita Fedorka. These people are all willing to talk. I've got their names and telephone numbers. Call me, 878-7475, and I'll give them to you if anybody's interested. God bless Rita. They were pressuring her in a Georgia hospital to starve her husband to death. She brings him home in a coma. He comes out of the coma at home. Terry Holmes had to fight for her brother's life. They wanted to pull him off the ventilator immediately. And he's now, they said he'd never do anything or be anything, and here he is. He's standing. We've got pictures of him. He's talking. They want to get him home. We've got this other, Marjorie, that Rita, that was her brother, and then I'm trying to think of let's see, we've got Marjorie Vosberg, who she was the one that brought her husband home. Rita Fedorka, excuse me, that was her son. He was in an automobile accident, and they were suggesting that he would never make any progress, and he lives in an apartment on his own with some help. And so these are not isolated cases, and it's tragic.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think right now we're seeing a picture of Ronnie on the video camera.
Yeah.
And that was him when he was, after you had intervened?
Yeah, so it was a few days afterwards. The family, it was before, was one of the, we took some video of him, but we also took pictures of him, and that was one of the pictures taken prior to the change of guardianship to the family from the government-appointed guardian, Mr. Schaff. And so that was a few days after the family got involved. Mm-hmm. So clearly not in a coma.
So what has happened to him?
Well, he languished under government Medicaid for a couple months. I mean, another side, there's so many stories to this. There had been this long process trying. Eileen Martin of Social Services, God bless her, in my opinion, she's the unsung hero in that hospital. She was trying to get him placed to an appropriate place. In August of last year, he made an attempt at hanging himself in June. In August, he'd been pulled off a ventilator and continued to breathe, and that kept him from going to the nursing home. That was when Mr. Schaff got involved. But there was some real serious Medicaid problems. She had no love for Mr. Boyce at Medicaid. November 1, he had the approval to transfer Ronnie to the Greenery in Massachusetts, and he had the money. He didn't bother to tell the hospital till November 16th, which was 7 days after he'd been started to be dehydrated to death on November 9. He'd have been dead, but God willing, the Lord intervened. November 12th, we had the court order. So, then it all unfolded from there. And then for another couple months, it was just this tug of war in terms of his health care, how they'd manage him in the hospital. A lot of the pain that he was communicating was because they weren't treating his infections. He had a lot of untreated superimposed infections, or at least two, one in his jaw and one in his urinary tract. But eventually, we got him transferred down to Massachusetts, and he's now at the Greenery in Brighton, Massachusetts, which is a private rehab center, and he continues to make progress. He was featured on Dan Rather and Connie Chung's Eye in America last week, and the way, as Connie Chung said when they showed the clip of him in the wheelchair, he said Ronnie Como spelled his name on a letterboard last week. And that everybody's saying he's made tremendous improvement. He was capable of a lot more earlier. I mean, the clip that most people saw, the Natalie Borak clip from Channel 3 with him hugging a teddy bear, she had that clip because that night in the room in the hospital, which was back in November, I was there, she wrote him a note and said, "Would you like to be with me on TV tonight?" And he leans up in bed and nods his head yes and points at they had a yes and no board. And so, everybody, if anybody remembers, just go back and read the press clips. This guy's in a comatose state. And I think that's one of the reasons the press may have turned on the hospital a little bit, because they'd been deceived. They'd been told he was in a coma, and he was anything but in a coma.
So they lied.
Well, I want to be careful because there's a lot of parties involved. Amy Swisher, the hospital spokeswoman, is a really nice person, and I don't think she lied. I think she just said what she was told to say, and I don't know if she may have lied. Maybe she had been in Ronnie's room. Maybe she had seen him. But if so, then she did lie. But I don't want to judge her heart. But clearly somebody was lying. I mean, you've got doctors that were in dispute. Dr. Augus, who justified this to the probate court, was in disagreement with Dr. Edwards, who in the medical records said it's hard to justify pulling food and water from a person who's gradually improving. His words.
How does this compare with what Dr. Kevorkian is doing, who is assisted suicide?
Well, I have no use for Jack Kevorkian, but it's far worse, because at least Jack Kevorkian has permission from his victims, and he does it quickly. So if there's some redeeming merit in that, then he's better than this, as far as I'm concerned.
Because you're saying he does it quickly, so his death process would take about how long?
Well, this, first of all, Ronnie Como, this was government-ordered involuntary euthanasia. Ronnie didn't want that to happen to him. I think that's one of the reasons he doesn't like Dr. August and doesn't like Schaff, the guardian who chose to do this to him, although he did have his favorite nurses. So how does it compare to Kevorkian? It's kind of the difference between dog poop and cat poop. It's not that much, but I mean, if I'm really not. I'm being facetious when I commend Kevorkian, but Schaff had no consent. Kevorkian has consent. Schaff chooses a god-awful, godless, cruel method, and Kevorkian does it quickly. So I mean,
So what about living wills? Do you see that as figuring into
well,
this at all?
that's really not the issue here, but it's a side issue, and it became an issue in the press today when somebody from the Vermont Ethics Networks said that we were questioning that. We've had some nurses come forward and talk to our attorneys that have said that they're concerned about the way those living wills are being interpreted and those durable power of attorneys, that you're just better off maybe without one, so that that the presumption is on the side of life. Because what's happened is there's been a whole redef. People don't realize that food and water is being classified as medical treatment. You see, and by redefining it that way, then it's. I mean, I think there can always be a case to be made that we're not going to use, just go on and on and on and use every resource in the book and to save. There's a limit to resources, but food and water is not a medical treatment. I mean, there's nobody.
That's scary because
I go without food and water for anywhere. I think the record's 11 days without water before you die.
That's scary because I tend not to want a lot of medication. So if I were to write up a living will, I very well might say, don't give me any medication. But I don't mean starve me or don't give me water.
Be careful you define it if you do. Don't say extraordinary measures, because they're calling food and water extraordinary measures now. I know some attorneys that see that they've got the form in the Vermont statutes. A lot of attorneys in the state don't use that form, which they don't have to. They just rewrite it and clarify that food and water is considered a basic right, that's what the patient expects. That you're going to at least feed and hydrate the person. Every one of us gets fed and hydrated coming into this world, and sometimes we need assistance going out or through a period of time where we're improving. I mean, the women that spoke yesterday, their crying thing was, give these people some time, and just because they come out of a coma and start pulling at the G-tube doesn't mean they want to die. That's a convenient interpretation. Their loved ones also say that's not what they meant. They just were confused. They wake up, they're in pain. They don't know what's going on. What's happened is that the hospitals are no longer a place that we can assume that people are going to be cared for and that the presumption is in favor of life. There's a death ethic that is set into the hospital that has created this tension. And so people can't assume that you better have somebody appointed to be a guardian that you can trust.
I keep going back to the national health care and the caps that are going to be put in certain areas, and who's going to be valuable and what kind of procedures are going to be worth performing. It seems like that might be a really...
Well, if resources will certainly under government health care, resources are going to dwindle and there will be more and more rationing. That's inevitable. Any schoolboy can understand that. That means that certainly the handicapped, the unborn, and a whole list of people that might be considered inconvenient or unproductive are going to be the first ones at risk.
Well, tell me, you as a minister, how does prayer fit into all of this?
Well, we prayed a lot through the process. I mean, one of the untold stories in this is the providential hand of God. I mean, you get a phone call on Veterans Day when the courts are closed. I mean, where do you find the telephone number of an unpublished Judge Doris Buchanan on Veterans Day when the courts are closed. And I just told the Lord, I said, Lord, if we're gonna do something, you're gonna have to help us. Matter of fact, before heading to Bennington, I went to a prayer meeting with a group of pastors, and we prayed for Ronnie. I mean, the first Buchanan in the area of Bennington that I punched was her. And we're really on a time crunch here. We didn't realize it because it just unfolded for us. But I was in Bennington court that night at 8 o'clock having set up an appointment with her at home. And so that needed to happen to get this thing rolling, because Ronnie really, he'd already been without food and water for 3 days. Mm-hmm. And then by the time we were able to get him, I mean, we just saw God's intervention. Because one of the things that the people in national organizations tell us is that sometimes when family intervenes and there is a reattachment order, they'll hydrate them, but they won't feed them, so they'll continue to languish. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes they just won't follow the order. So one of the concerns was when I served Kevin McDonald at the hospital with the order was would they follow it? And fortunately, there was a police officer there that understood the law, went along with them, and walked into the room and saw him do it. And so we had immediate confirmation because we trusted that officer. And then we were able to go look for family. The sad thing is this could have been avoided. I begged the guardian. I said, in the parking lot, I said, let me go find family. Mm-hmm. I mean, no interest to do that.
Back to prayer, Mike.
Yeah. And we did pray looking for the family. And there were some wonderful people. At 1:30 in the morning on Sunday night, we were in the home of a Mary Como in Cranston, Rhode Island, with a captain of the police department there, and turned out to be the wrong one. But they were so horrified at the reason we were there, they let us turn their home into a communication center for about 2 hours as we were tapping into phone banks and things like that. And I left Rhode Island with 8 more Mary Comos in the name of a private detective that might be willing to finish the work on it. And so we went and took a passing shot at the father. They had so misrepresented him in the court that I didn't think he'd be interested. He was easy enough to find. The police found him for me. And so we met with them, and they were in tears. They thought Ronnie was dead.
Back to prayer. I want to ask you something about prayer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is fine. No, this is fine.
All right.
But I've got already my thoughts about the kind of praying you do.
Well, thank you. Tell me about them.
Right now, they've been talking in the psychological journals and things that I read about 2 kinds of prayer. Mm-hmm. Goal-directed prayer and kind of like undirected, thy will be done kind of prayer. Which do you do?
Well, I have a little acronym called ACT. Adoration, confession, thanksgiving, and supplication. So I kind of see 4 spelled out in the Lord's Prayer. I'm just led to do whatever's appropriate at the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, if somebody wants to get in touch with you about any of the things that you've talked about that you do, how would they do that? 878-7475, and that's also for women and men who've suffered from abortion. We have a group called PEDAL, People Exploited Through Abortion Lies. We talk in churches and university forums and campuses, and that's a whole other story, but that's a tremendous movement. We're in contact with over 100 men and women in this state who have, in many cases, been exploited by the abortion industry. So. Okay, Mike, thank you for being on Healthfully Speaking. And thank you again for watching Healthfully Speaking, and we'll see you next time.
It started small, but it grew as the need grew. Listen to Susan Cooper tell you why she decided to do something about it.
Well, it got started 3 years ago when we had a cold spell and we had ice on the pond and no snow, which is pretty unusual in Vermont. And it was Christmas vacation, and a lot of families around here were out skating on the pond with our kids and playing pond hockey. And it was such a treat because we really don't get usable ice more than a couple of days a year usually. And we all just said, why don't we have a skating rink? It's the only part of the state that doesn't have one, and I know people all around the state, that's the biggest thing that their kids do all winter long is skate. And we said, let's look into it, see what we can do.
Ideas grow. Board member Wayne Granquist's personal vision for the North Shire Civic Center embraced the performing arts. The Vermont Symphony Orchestra needed a home, and as it turned out, the center would be the perfect place for it.
A few years ago, when Susan Cooper, who has incredible energy, got me involved, I was then the president of the Vermont Symphony Orchestra, we began to look at alternative uses for the space beyond skating. And it became obvious that it was a spectacular place to think about putting on a concert. So we began to work a little bit with the plan and the design and think about the space outside, think about expanding the lawns a little bit. Because the symphony, as the plan goes, is not simply going to play itself, although it is a superb orchestra. It's also going to be a presenting organization, bringing in guest artists and bringing in people from different kinds of music, not just major symphonies. We have lots and lots of theater and lots of great culture around, but we have not had the place where we can put together a major event. And I think this is going to do it. It's going to be a big thing for this area.
To fund dependable skating, people residing in the Manchester area have faced a round trip of 2 hours or more, often a tough journey in the winter months. To the north, the only rink is in Rutland. To the east, the nearest facility is in Bellows Falls, or Brattleboro, or due south in North Adams, which is the closest rink there. Up until now, most Manchester area residents have simply stayed home. But a great idea often needs a great place to happen. The logical choice for the North Shire Civic Center was Manchester. Strategically located in the very center of an area that has no facility, a natural crossroads throughout the history of southern Vermont, and a locality already established as a magnet for outdoor sports and the arts. 16 acres of prime land, nestled in the mountain with easy access to historic Route 7A and very near Manchester Center. This site has already been purchased, and construction of the center is slated to begin in 1996. Let's take a look at the floor plan of the center as a skating rink. 20,000 square feet will be devoted to skating, youth hockey, figure skating, lessons, school and general skating, and special needs programs. Fully equipped with a skate rental shop, pro shop, locker room, a warm room, community room, and a refreshment stand, the center will seat 500 for winter tournaments and major events. Youth hockey is a democratic sport that engages large numbers of children. The North Shire Civic Center is committed to a rental program which will enable any child who has an interest in skating to lease skates and equipment for the season. Gary Graybars, board advisor, has already proved the need area kids have to skate. Sponsored by the North Shire Civic Center, he started the Avalanche Hockey Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the North Adams Skating Rink, where we come down here 1 hour to play for 1 hour, to go back 1 hour. Sounds ridiculous, but these kids are still coming down here anyway. They've been down here since November, and now it's March, and we have not lost one child. They've played every single Tuesday, and they've gone to games. They've gone to the Knickerbocker Arena to play. They've brought their skills all over the place. The only problem is they can't play at home. Simon Perkins has played on 3 different teams, including helping out with the women's team. Simon, how many miles do you think we travel? How many hours to games do we go?
A lot.
And practices?
A lot. And it really annoys the parents because they have to wait at the rec for half an hour until the bus gets back.
This is Alex Elias, one of our top scorers for the Squirts, and he'd like to tell you what he thinks about playing down here.
Well, if we play down in our rink, then we'd be a much better team, and I wish we could play 8 days a week.
Okay. Just Hunt, one of our defensemen.
Well, I think it would be really good if we could play at our home rink, because then, like, our family doesn't have to travel, like, 50 miles to, like, cheer for us.
Okay. What about you there, Mr. Charbonneau?
If we had our own rink, we wouldn't have to travel this far, and we could play more.
Okay. That's good. All righty. Well, these are my guys right here. As you can see, they're very happy to come down here, but better yet, they would rather play at home.
Yeah.
Now we see the North Shore Civic Center set up as a concert hall. The Vermont Symphony Orchestra will present as many as 10 evening concerts during the summer. With a 1,500-seat capacity indoors, the symphony's audience can enjoy the concert no matter what the weather. However, on a nice summer evening, 1,000 lawn seats will be added, and residents can stroll on walking paths from the town to the site, bringing their families and a picnic, and sit on the lawn and hear the concert. To make the center viable for multi-use space, many questions had to be addressed. For example, attendees and exhibitors at the trade shows and major sport events and concerts need parking and make significant demands on the infrastructure. Rick Kelly, an environmental consultant and board member, tells how, one by one, we solve the problems.
One of the first undertakings of the North Shore Civic Center was to secure all the necessary permits for the facility. This is a 35,000 square foot building on a 16-acre site. To secure necessary permits is a substantial undertaking, and we were fortunate to have the help and expertise of many friends throughout the community. The first step was to go forth and gather the planning and zoning permits. This was a process whereby the town officials could participate in the development of the project. These permits were secured by unanimous approval. The next step was to go and secure the state permit or Act 250 permit. This is more of a cumbersome process, but nevertheless it went very smoothly and the permit was indeed secured. Coupled with this is a special wastewater permit, which enables us to have large gatherings at the site to accommodate the Vermont Symphony. These permits are all fully in place and fully activated. So thanks to all our friends and followers, we're able to get these necessary permits so that we are ready to begin construction.
Often, dreams take money to make them real. Here Joe Miles, a native Vermonter, NCC treasurer and board member, outline a fiscal strategy for the center.
First and foremost, the Civic Center needs to open with zero debt, and we're well on our way to doing that. Once the center is open, we're going to be drawing revenue from a number of different sources. Not just skating, not just Vermont Symphony Orchestra activities. We're going to be drawing revenues from the shoulder seasons, the spring and the late fall, from sports camps, from trade shows, from a number of different activities. We're going to be enjoying revenue from advertising. We're going to be enjoying revenue from concession and rentals. All of these elements come together to make the Civic Center an extremely and very viable operation, not just based on our ideas, but based on what we've seen in well-run, well-organized skating and multi-purpose facilities elsewhere. By bringing these elements together, we're going to be able to provide youth activities, cultural activities to the people of southern Vermont in this particular area at very, very reasonable rates. And that's what we're all about.
In every long-range plan, there is a short-term objective. Our objective is to break ground, build the center, and open the doors so that the public may begin to enjoy all the benefits the center has to offer. Our long-range plan will always be to promote this region's general welfare by providing our citizens with meaningful activities throughout the year, with special emphasis on youth activities that are currently unavailable. Susan Hill, a longtime resident of Manchester, speaks for all of us when she describes what the center will do for the area.
Hello, my name is Susan Hill. I grew up in this area and now operate my own CPA practice here. Ours is a community of great vitality, with a future that is as bright as we strive to make it. I support the North Shire Civic Center, not only as an athletic arena, but as an economic resource. This one facility will attract businesses and individuals to our area, not only to visit, but to stay. Either way, we all benefit. Please join us in supporting this exciting athletic, cultural, and economic resource. Your efforts will reward you.
Big ideas take people who not only dream, but know how to make dreams come true. The 120 volunteers who have joined with the Center's Board of Directors in this endeavor are just these kind of people. Join them now. Be a part of the dream. Be around for the fun.
Hello, and welcome to Health Matters, a program produced by Porter Medical Center concerning health, medicine, and long-term care. I'm Jim Daly, president of Porter Medical Center, and today our guest is Elaine Viens. From Addison Community Action CVOEO. Why don't we start today, Elaine, by you giving us some background about your agency, its structure, its mission, and what it does in our community.
Okay, well, Jim, Champlain Valley Office of Economic Opportunity is a private nonprofit corporation that was organized as a community action agency in the state of Vermont in accordance with the Economic Opportunity Act in 1964. The organizational setup of the organization is a little confusing, so I'd like to refer to the chart on my right. The agency is governed by a 12-member board volunteer. We have an executive director. The Addison Community Action is one of the 3 community actions under the Champlain Valley Office of Economic Opportunity umbrella. There's quite a few other programs under the umbrella, and I'll just quickly mention a few of them just to give people an idea of exactly what the organization does. There's Head Start, which a lot of people are familiar with. Their office in Addison County is also in the Marble Works District. They meet a wide range of needs for school children, such as education, nutrition, healthcare, special education. They have a home-based and a center-based program. There's the Micro Business Development Program, which was designed as for an identified need for self-employment for low-income people to reach economic self-sufficiency. The program works on intensive business technical needs. They have classroom training, one-on-one counseling, and there's another program, the Vermont Tenants. The Vermont Tenants, they promote laws and policies and also promote tenant organizing to work toward adequate, safe housing for low-income people. So those are just a few of the programs. Now, the mission of Addison Community Action is to enable low-income people to attain the skills, opportunities, and knowledge in order to become self-sufficient, as well as to address the basic needs of equity and justice issues. We also work on organizing, utilizing, and mobilizing all resources, both public and private, in order to address the needs of those who are disadvantaged by our social, economic, and political systems in Vermont. So that's the mission and the organization of CVOEO.
Could we go back to Head Start for a second?
Sure.
Since we are a provider of medical services. Could you tell us a little bit more about Head Start and who it serves and how its linkage to the medical system, physicians, hospitals, the formal?
Sure. Well, Head Start is a wonderful program because their home-based program, the employees of the Head Start program work with low-income families, so you need to be income eligible. They have a program where they go into the homes and they work with the families. So if there's any referrals that need to be made, such as immunizations or health care, they might go into a home. A child might be ill and the parent might say, well, we don't have health care. So the Head Start staff will make those referrals and hopefully be able to get some kind of health care for the children, or let them know about the Open Door Clinic that's available in Middlebury and soon will be available in Bristol. Let them know about the Dr. Dinosaur program, a health program for not only low-income children, but for mainly for people who work but don't really make enough to buy health insurance, but their incomes are too high to be able to be eligible for Medicaid.
So you educate about programs available and
right,
you work
and
hard
make
at
resource
addressing access
and referrals.
issues.
Right. Yes.
So it sounds like obviously you offer a wide range of services and are involved in many different programs and serve people in a variety of different ways. The literature that I looked at basically said that everything is free to the client. So how do you generate the income that you need to sustain your organization? How are you funded for what you do?
Well, Ron, we have a few different funding channels. We're funded federally by the Community Service Block Grant. The Community Service Block Grant allows us to serve folks who are 25% of the poverty level, and that's pretty low. So that really helps us out a lot. We also get some funding on the federal level from the Food and Nutrition funding, and that helps us do a lot of nutrition education as well as food stamp outreach. So some of these fundings have strings attached, to sort of speak, so that they're targeted for specific programs. We also get some state funding. We're contracted through the Department of Social Welfare for our Crisis Fuel program. So we serve folks and help them out with utilities and fuel, which I'll speak to later. We are contracted with the Central Vermont Public Service, CVPS, to administer the Share Heat program, which also helps with utility disconnects and acquiring fuel for folks, and also the Warmth program. We're contracted with Green Mountain Power to provide that program. We're also really lucky that we live in such a wonderful community because we get a lot of community support for emergency services. We see people who might be looking for dentures. We see people who are in the middle of, right before they just applied for WIC, Women and Infant Children's Program, haven't received their formula yet. They need to wait a week, but they're out of formula. Those type of emergency services. It's not a lot of money, but it helps to provide for those services. So those are some of our fundings.
So, and a lot of those are not necessarily tied, obviously, to the federal government. So even though we're hearing a lot these days about federal cutbacks to programs for people who are less have less advantages than others, it sounds like you do have some insulation there in terms of the cutback may not be completely dramatic to you because you do have other funding sources.
We have other funding sources, but there are some other programs that I have yet to mention, that like the summer food program for low-income children, that we're going to see some cuts right here on the local level. And some of the money for the fuel program through DSW comes from some federal funding, the LIHEAP program, which we haven't gotten any increases, which actually means we're cut because the price of fuel keeps going up and the level of people who need to be assisted through the program goes up, but we get the same amount of money. It's referred to as level funding. So we're lucky that it's been level funded, but we the future will
It
tell.
is
We
all
could,
scary.
right? Yes, definitely.
Now, do you have to be a resident of Addison County to be served?
Through the Addison Community Action Office, but there are other community action agencies throughout the state of Vermont. So it's good just to look it up in your local telephone book and find out which community action you can that can assist you, and give them a call. We all have 1-800 numbers, and see which one you need to go into.
We all know how important it is to eat right. Can you tell us a little bit about the anti-hunger programs that the ACA offers?
Sure. We've learned that even moderate undernutrition, the type that's frequently seen in the United States, can have lasting and sometimes permanent effects on the development of children. Some of the health effects that we've seen with inadequate nutrition are headaches. If I'm hungry in between my lunch and my dinner, I can grab an apple because I feel a headache coming on. But a lot of families and children that we see don't have that apple to go to, or don't have those crackers to go to, so they get headaches. There's also been some stunted physical growth. If you're not able to eat as much as you need when you're young, your growth will be stunted. Undernourished children are more likely to have iron deficiency, which can immediately affect their concentration. I know when I'm hungry, it's difficult for me to concentrate. So sometimes I try to think about children who are in school who are hungry and they can't concentrate. Children who have inadequate nutrition are 2 to 3 times more likely to have health problems, which leads to some of the mental and behavioral effects of hunger. Now, if they have 2 to 3 more times the health problems, then the absenteeism from school is higher, because they're just sick, they can't go into school, they're not getting the nutrients they need. School failure among impoverished children is associated with inadequate nutrition. So there's a correlation with not getting enough to eat and the high cost of special education. Now, there's a known link between poverty, hunger, and cognitive development in children. So unlike some social and health problems, inadequate nutrition or hunger can be prevented. So Addison Community Action presently has 4 anti-hunger, we'd like to refer to them as anti-hunger programs in place. The first program is the Vermont Farm to Family program. The Vermont Farm to Family program is administered by the Office of Economic Opportunity in cooperation with the Department of Health, the Department of Agriculture, Foods, and Markets. The program has 2 objectives. One of the objectives is to increase the consumption of fruits and vegetables for nutritionally at-risk children and families. So to actually get them to the farmers markets and to pick up those fresh vegetables and fruits that are so abundant here in Vermont. The other objective is to strengthen farmer markets. When they use the coupons, they're helping to support the economy. It just goes right back into the economy. So the program achieves these goals by folks come into Addison Community Action. If they're income eligible, they receive farmer market coupons. The recipients will go to farmer markets and they will be able to use them at authorized vendors, and you can tell if which vendors are authorized because they'll have a little display in their booth or on their table that says that they accept farmer market coupons. We've heard nothing but raving reviews about how the vendors educate and work with the recipients of the coupons, that they give them recipes, they talk about canning. A lot of fruits and vegetables people might not be aware of how to prepare them or what they taste like. So it's really exciting that the community works together like this.
And another priority of your agency, other than helping people stay well through proper nutrition, is helping people stay warm during the long Vermont winters, which sometimes creep into spring, as we're finding out right now.
Slowly.
Slowly. Can you tell us a little bit about your efforts in these areas?
Sure. Not surprisingly, children and families who suffer from inadequate nutrition typically suffer from a range of other social insults and that are associated with poverty, such as unemployment or inadequate health care, unsafe housing, and not being able to stay warm during the winter is also another one of those. We have found that through our Crisis Fuel program, 44% of the recipients of this program are families who are working. The Vermont Job Gap Study has found that 38% of Vermont families with two parents who are working do not make enough money to cover their basic needs. Basic needs are food, housing, clothing, transportation, healthcare, and childcare. So those are very basic. So it's a multi-issue problem. So as a result of an insufficient hourly wage or livable wage, many families are having a lot of difficulty paying for the high cost of fuel. We also found that 26% of households who use crisis fuel are elderly or disabled. And we know that the elderly and the disabled cannot supplement their incomes, so it's very difficult for them to pay for fuel. So we have actually a few programs in place to help with that. One of them is the program that I mentioned before, the Share Heat program and the Warmth program. And people just need to come into the office and see if they're eligible. There's quite a few different sets of criteria, so if they don't meet one, we try to maximize benefits. We look for how we can serve them. There's the Crisis Fuel program, which is contracted under the Department of Social Welfare. This program offers not only financial assistance for heating fuel, which is wood or propane, oil, whatever you heat your home with, but also does furnace repair and replacement. So that's really helpful. The program begins in late November, and it just finished April 30th. Just to give you an idea, for the months of January through March, it's just 3 months, we assisted with $44,000. So there's also, in addition to the financial assistance, we assist with advocacy and negotiations with fuel dealers and utility companies, so that we'll do everything possible to avoid someone from being disconnected because then their furnace won't work or running out of fuel. So there's also another program, the Supplemental Fuel Program, which we do not administer but is through the Department of Social Welfare. And I'd like to mention it because the deadlines for applications are July 15th. Well, the application process begins July 15th. It ends August 30th, and a lot of people at that time of the year aren't thinking about fuel. But it's a fuel program which sends a check to your fuel dealer, which supplements the income that you have to pay for your fuel. So I just wanted to mention that to have people aware of that program.
You mentioned WIC and food stamps, and your agency assists people in determining whether they're eligible and applying if they are eligible. How specifically does that work?
Well, questions when a client comes in for, let's say, crisis fuel, questions are asked in a client-worker relationship. They're confidential, they're respectful, and they're professional. So a needs assessment's determined, and the resources that are available are explained to the client. A client comes in for crisis fuel. It's obvious they don't have the money to pay for their fuel. So we might ask them, and they'll give us an idea. Well, I have to pay out a lot of money for my rent. And basically, I don't really make enough to pay for my rent. And during the winter, Christmas, and the high fuel bills, and we'll say, well, have you heard of the Section 8? It's a subsidy program, housing program, through Vermont Housing Authority, which helps subsidize your rent. They might not have heard about that program. We'll get out the applications if they indeed would like us to help them fill out the application and apply for the program. They might say, my food bill is really high. I'm having a hard time covering fuel and food. We might say, have you applied for food stamps? A lot of people aren't aware of these programs, or they don't know where to apply, or they don't feel comfortable applying for them. So we form a relationship with them if they need help filling out the forms. These forms can be overwhelming. They've asked a lot of questions, so we'll help them fill them out and work with them. Addison Community Action is aware of the complexity of the systems that families are linked to on a day-to-day basis. So the systems that sometimes are designed to serve the families can become a little overwhelming. So we're there to just help them sort through that if they would like our assistance doing that, and just informing them of all the available resources and helping them apply for those.
Can you tell us just a little bit about the WIC program, which is Women,
Infant and Children's Program? Yeah. It's a program that's administered through the Department of Health. So if you're in the Middlebury or Addison area, then you could go on Exchange Street to the Department of Health. And it's a program that has actually a lot of different branches that sort out. They do a lot of nutrition education. They provide for families with some groceries, such as, I'm not quite sure what exactly they're doing now, but they do peanut butter. I know they do formulas, they do cereal, so it's like supplement to your groceries. They do a lot of resource and referral, making sure the children are immunized. Do you have health care? Working with the parents, giving them information about recipes and healthy foods and those type of things.
You mentioned a minute ago about helping people navigate through complex systems.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of any that's much more complex than the IRS and the tax
Mm-hmm.
code. And one of your services is actually helping people complete their federal tax returns, which again, it really shows the whole spectrum of what you do. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
'Cause people may not be aware of that service.
Yeah, we have staff that are trained by the IRS through the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. We begin scheduling appointments into January, and we work right up into a few days after the tax due date. It's a rewarding program not only for us in the office, but also for the community, because it's a means of not only putting cash back into the pockets of the people who come in, but also into the community. The total projected federal earned income tax credit was $96,000 that we worked to help clients get. The state earned income was $22,000. We also looked for property tax rebates. We found $36,000, and renters rebates for $12,000. So that's some money that will help people buy those groceries and pay for child care and fix their cars. So it's exciting.
In addition to providing services and referring people and helping them navigate, your agency is involved in policy formation and advocacy. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, it's critical that we examine the effectiveness of public policy issues that are designed to protect and nurture disadvantaged children and families. Addison Community Action is concerned with the social policies that affect human condition. So, for instance, I'll give a few examples of some ways that I've worked on that. I wrote some letters about there was a 2% increase in aid to needy families with children. Some people refer to it as welfare in the State House Appropriations Committee. So 2% increase passed out of that committee. It went on the floor of the House of Representatives, came out with only a 1% increase. We then requested a roll call, a copy of the roll call, to see which of our legislators in Addison County voted in agreement or against the 2% increase. We then wrote letters asking the legislators if they would like more information about ANFC, if they'd like to visit our office, because we supported the 2% increase. I testified before the Senate General and Military Affairs Committee in support of a joint resolution that would have actually done something on the federal level. It would have transferred funds from the military budget into our domestic programs, such as the WIC program, the Summer Food Service program, which we're a sponsor of, Addison Community Action. We'll be doing that in for our fifth year this summer. education, just the domestic programs. We review proposed legislation and we evaluate its effect on the low-income community. So that's our work.
Wow. And how do you collaborate? Are there other agencies in town that obviously you're aware of what they do, but is there any forum that you all get together and share programs and ideas, and how does that work? So
well, that's a good question. There's the Human Service Council, which meets monthly, and it's a lot of nonprofit organizations that just get together and we talk about the programs, our new programs, existing programs. We talk about the information because a lot of these organizations are issue specific. The organizations who work with the elderly work on legislation and resources for the elderly. Organizations that work on unemployment issues are specific to those. So we get together and we just share news because we try to look at the person as in a whole and all the needs that families and children have and not just a specific part of them. There's also another committee, People of Addison County Together. They're referred to as PACT. And it's been a great community response on that committee and a lot of not only nonprofits but for-profits, the business community, parents, teachers are getting together and talking about what they feel the youth of Addison County need at this point.
And are there other programs that you either administer or are involved with that maybe we haven't touched upon that we want to be sure that we, before we run out of time, that we include in today's program? And
Sure. Well, many families that we see through no fault of their own, unemployment, someone gets injured, someone becomes ill, face severe crisis debt or a debt crisis. So Addison Community Action does counsel families in financial crisis. Conversations center around which debts to pay first. And the fundamental principle is to pay the debts whose non-payment would be most harm for the family. There's a difference in the consequences of not paying your mortgage payment than there is not paying your utility payment. What are those consequences in helping families decide which payment they need to make and what are the consequences of the payments they don't make? Because when there's only so much money to go around, then you have to make priorities. We also work a lot on consumer rights and protection. We work with the Public Service Board, who regulates utilities and telephone, the Attorney General's Office that regulates propane. We have conversations with the Consumer Assistance Program through UVM. I'm working with them right now on a lemon law. I have some clients who feel that they have bought automobiles and could have had bad luck with them and are looking into their rights as far as the lemon law. We also work on landlord-tenant issues, eviction process, health codes. We inform clients of their rights as consumers and try to connect them with the resources that they would need.
So even though some of the programs that you administer and are involved with may not necessarily fit into the traditional view of what one might consider as a health-related issue, I think that certainly it's clear that what the services you provide are positive and important for the health of the community and touch upon a lot of different issues that are important to people who live in Addison County.
Yeah. So. And I'd like to just mention another program. We have an emergency food shelf. So anyone who's out of food, doesn't have food stamps, and doesn't have the cash to buy some food, they can come into our office in the Marble Works District, and we give 3 days worth of an emergency food. So I really wanted to get that out there.
Could you mention the phone number?
Yeah, we have a phone number is 388-2285, Addison Community Action. We have a 1-800 number. It's 1-800-639-2318, and feel free to give us a call. Our office hours are 8 until 4, and we do have an answering machine, so if you just want to leave a message, we'll make sure we get back to you, or you can just walk in anytime during our working hours, and we'd love to meet you.
Great. Elaine, thank you for being our guest today.
You're welcome.
And thank you for watching Health Matters. Hello, and welcome to Health Matters, a program produced by Porter Medical Center concerning health, medicine, and long-term care. I'm Jim Daly, the president of Porter Medical Center, and to my left is Ron Hallman. And we'd like to welcome our guest today, Sonia Olson, who's the coordinator of the Community Health Services of Addison County. Welcome, Sonia.
Thank you.
Why don't we start today by you giving us a little orientation and tell us about the Community Health Services of Addison County.
Well, Community Health Services of Addison County is a group of people who came together in about 1990, and I was looking over the list of original board members, and I think they're people who sort of came of age in the 60s, and they were all concerned about access to health care for people who are poor and have grown up in families that may not know about preventive health care or timely treatment of disease, or might have had problems with transportation as far as getting to a physician's office, even if they did know about preventive health care. And anyway, this group began meeting, talking about what they could do for health care. And the original group was healthcare providers, for instance, Jack Mayer, who is a pediatrician in Middlebury and also has a master's in public health. Rachel Guy, who is a nurse practitioner for Planned Parenthood. Ron has been sitting in on most of the meetings. He's probably one of the original and knows more about it than I do because I wasn't there then. Tom Plum was part of that group, Cheryl Mitchell, Dick Foreman, Barry Bailey, who worked for migrant farm workers, Ronnie Chernoff, who works for Adult Basic Ed, Sandy Rivera, who's the district director of social welfare, and in fact all the state social human service agencies were represented. So it was a pretty good group of people as far as planning and looking at problems. And they began initially with just a few small services. We wrote a few grants for a little bit of money and had cholesterol screening days, blood pressure screening days. We started PAP clinics that we held every 3 months and got a little bit of funding and were able to help get started the mammography program. And that helped us identify the need and make sure that, feel more confident that there really was a service that we could provide, and then we began to look for a little more funding. And I have to say, I think it's just one of those examples where Addison County works well together, and I know we have a good reputation for that in the state.
Well, it sounds like it was a diverse group of both providers, people on that side of the equation, as well as other people who were in a position that they could observe the problems to access to care that or barriers to care that people had. So it was a diverse group that came together.
I remember there was a lot of talent and a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of expertise, but no money.
Right.
And fairly early on in the process, you wrote a grant to the Jesse B. Cox Trust in Massachusetts, I believe. And lo and behold, they funded it. And
That's right.
$120,000 later, you started designing other programs. Can you talk a little bit about that grant and how you used it?
Well, we wrote that grant asking for funding for a mobile health clinic. And they thought it was a good idea. It addressed the barrier of lack of transportation. And the real focus with the mobile health clinic was preventive health care and education. So that's how we used the funding. We bought this blue school bus that had been made into a health clinic by a group of people in Maine. I think they were connected with the Southern Maine Medical School or Medical Center. And anyway, we bought it for about $20,000, brought it back, and hired a nurse practitioner and a person to drive it. And they went around the county to different sites, Virgins, Bristol, Orwell. We went to Bridport for a while and would set up shop in a community next to a school or a church and just open the doors and let people come in for whatever health care they thought they needed. Obviously a limited range, but a lot of people came in for immunizations or blood pressure checks or flu or cold symptoms, that sort of thing.
How did you, I mean, you've touched on the original delivery model, the bus, and I think probably the blue bus, the Health on Wheels bus, is what most people think of when they think of community health services. How did you determine how much sick care you were going to provide at the various sites versus how much education and preventative kinds of care? Or was it you just went to the site and then whoever came, you tried to deal with their particular issue?
Well, there are obvious limitations with a school bus that's been made into a health clinic. So we could, that to some extent defined the amount of health care we could provide. The other thing is that we based the project on having a mid-level provider rather than a physician working, and that would be either a nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant. And so we were looking at general medicine and fairly as being a point of entry into the healthcare system. I think that the people who came to the bus helped us define what we did too. We ended up having a real core of retired people in Lincoln who used the bus for a lot of foot care, something we never would have thought before we went to Lincoln that we would be providing.
So it was really the access piece through the blue bus was a major component of what you were trying to address in terms of the transportation and bringing healthcare to people. And you used the grant, I believe, for the most part, to pay the salary of a mid-level practitioner to provide the care on the bus. Yeah. And you used that model for about 3 years or so. And about a year ago, you completely changed gears and are doing it differently based on what you learned from those first 3 years. Can you talk a little bit about the change?
Sure. Part of the reason we were able to get funding for the health bus was that Vermont at that time was looking at universal access to health care. No foundation wants to fund something that can't support itself ultimately, and preventive care is a hard thing, as you both know, to get funded, especially, well, it's hard to get funding for, period. So it was only because we were in a state that was looking at universal access to health care that foundations found us interesting. And
as a bridge.
As a bridge. We could start out this project, show the need, begin to bring people into the healthcare system that hadn't been part of the healthcare system. And then as they began to be insured, that third-party payment would help pay for our services. So it looked like a pretty good deal that we would be able to fund it. Well, as you know, Vermont didn't go to universal access to health care, so we were running out of funding. And another part of foundation funding is that you need to have a new idea. You can't go back and just get operating funds. And so we couldn't keep funding this bus through foundation funding. And we looked hard at our patient population and the fact that we knew there was a need, and looked at the most efficient way, the most cost-effective way we could run a clinic, and moved into the traditional free clinic model. And we were able to do so because we have a wonderful group of physicians and nurses who are willing to donate their time and let us provide a service at very low cost.
So you went into Dr. Mayer's office,
right,
who's one of the founding board members, and started offering similar services that you were before, but in a fixed site and using doctors and nurses. But I mean, physicians were now part of the equation, whereas before the only physician participation was as a backup or as a supervising person.
Right.
Physicians a year ago actually began taking care of patients as volunteers.
That's right. Every Tuesday evening we move into Jack Mayer's office and set up shop, and people are seen from 6 till 9 o'clock at night by volunteers. We have one nurse practitioner who volunteers, and the rest, about 9 physicians and about 9 nurses.
Tell us a little bit about the logistics. It's now the location of Dr. Mayer's office has changed, but tell us about the number of patients you see and what kind of medical problems that you typically see now in the fixed site approach.
Okay.
Versus the other approach, and is there a charge or is it a donation type of a service?
I'll do the last first. There's no charge, but we do encourage people to make a donation. And we have on our literature $5. Some people are unable to pay the $5. Others make a more generous donation, so that is flexible. We see from 10 to 12 people on a Tuesday evening, and that's quite a few people to see in 3 hours, because the people who come tend to have fairly complicated things going on. We've had a lot of people who haven't had health care for a long time, and people who may have let something that could have been easy to treat early on go, and until it has gotten to be pretty serious, so that by the time they come to us, their needs are more complicated.
Is the barrier there, the financial barrier, the reason that they don't go to a physician earlier?
Yes.
That they either are concerned about the issue of paying the bill, which they think could be a large one based on how badly they feel, versus going to the ER, where you're going to a hospital that has a tax-exempt mission and sees everyone regardless of their financial class or ability to pay.
Well, Vermonters are proud, and we sure see that at the clinic. It's one of the reasons that donation is very important, because I think a lot of the people wouldn't come if there weren't a way for them to pay something. And it's just very difficult for some people, even though they know that they could have an outstanding bill with the emergency room, to do so. And some of them probably, we could eventually work out some payment plans with the physicians that they have been seeing, but the pride gets in the way. And you know, sometimes after they've been to us and we've sent some reports back to the physician that they had been seeing in the past, they will end up going back to that physician.
You know, it's interesting to think about your model in terms of the interaction with your patient population, because unlike a traditional doctor's office, you don't have a history on this person in terms of their previous visits and their life history and, you know, their medical history. So that piece is different. This is the first experience that this doctor or nurse may have had with this patient. But also, unlike an emergency department where this is true, the person walks in the door and you may never have seen them before and may never see them again, it's not necessarily an emergency. So you have a kind of a primary care experience in a sort of an emergency room kind of setting, and the hybrid is what you do. And what do the doctors think about this? I mean, these are physicians who, some of them work in the emergency department and are used to the model, but not the non-emergent part, and others are primary care doctors who are used to long relationships with people. What do they say?
Well, I can only give you some anecdotes, but I think that one of the biggest concerns of any physician who volunteers there is continuity of care. They'd like to, because this isn't, people aren't coming with just an emergency need that can be taken care of in 5 minutes, and so if they come back and back and back, they may see a different person each time. And that's a concern. Some of the physicians try to schedule themselves so that they can do the follow-up themselves. Others have been really wonderful about seeing patients in their offices for follow-up. Otherwise, what do the physicians say? One came out one night and said, "Why do I get all the hard ones?" And the nurse looked at him and said, "You don't. It's like this every Tuesday night." It's amazing how many almost emergencies can happen on a Tuesday, because I think people wait. And it may not be just a week, it may have been 6 months.
You've talked a little bit about the evolution of the organization from the mobile approach with the bus to the fixed site. What is the, how would you describe the current relationship with the mainstream medicine, the sick care providers, the hospital and the physicians, some of whom volunteer, and the free clinic? What is that interface, and how could it be improved? What should it be?
I think the interface is really amazingly good. That we have the volunteers who work are very committed and have helped us with that, because they'll go from the clinic and talk to a specialist about somebody they've seen and get some advice and do some follow-up. And so that helps us. I think that one of the things that we want to work on more is how do we refer people from the clinic to a specialist, and set up a more formal arrangement with different physicians, because right now it's pretty ad hoc. We get a person who needs X, Y, or Z, and we call that office. We never assure people of free care or even reduced price care. It depends on what they are able to work out with a physician, but we do write a letter and explain their situation. So if we could formalize that a little bit, I think that would help both the physicians and us.
But if you just think of the evolution that's taken place in 7 years, which is, I guess in some people's mind, a long time, but in this situation it seems like it's gone by pretty quickly. It is amazing evolution from a group of people who really had very little expertise in medical care or hospitals or healthcare, into what is today a real consortium effort of a lot of different providers, and it's starting to interface in a relatively, there's some seams still, but it's becoming more seamless all the time.
Well, I think that's why I said it when I was looking over the original group. I felt like it was a group from the 60s, and then I think that funky school bus fit right into that. And now we are more, much more traditional, and I think we're providing a much better service to people. And I guess one way you could see that is the needs of the people who are coming are much more serious now.
Well, talking about being a more traditional free clinic, we're not the only one in the state of Vermont. There are others and around the country. And when you are not wearing your hat as the local Addison County coordinator, you are also a statewide coordinator of a group that has just gotten a pretty substantial federal grant.
We have.
Can you talk about what you do on the state level, what that grant's all about, and how you're going to use it?
I serve as the coordinator of a group of free clinics in the state. 5 of us had been meeting quarterly for about 1.5 years, and it was wonderful for us to get together, because we were, even though we were still running the bus at that time, we still served as a free clinic. And there's a lot of problem solving that can be simplified when you meet with other people, as you well know, who are doing the same thing you are. So we'd been meeting quarterly, and had worked with the Vermont Healthcare Authority to define some data that we could collect together and help all of us look at the uninsured population and had all started to collect data together. And we decided that we'd gotten that far and to apply for a federal rural outreach grant under the Public Health Service. And to our great surprise, we were funded. We found out almost at the end of September in '96 that our funding would start September 29th. And it was really wonderful. We had brought 3 other clinics into the grant application process, so there were 8 of us in all. And there are now 2 more free clinics that we are helping to get established in Windsor and Springfield.
And part of the way you're going to use the Addison County specific portion of this grant is to do something in Bristol, is that right?
That's right. The funding was about $240,000, but divided among 8 clinics. And each of the 8 clinics received different amounts depending on what they chose to do, but it was for expansion or enhancement. And our goal, sort of following in the steps or the path of the bus, was to continue to look at the transportation or just the geographic needs of Addison County. And so we've been very fortunate in that Dr. Henderson in Bristol has agreed to let us use his clinic for Thursday evenings. And the grant has funded us to hire a nurse practitioner for 8 hours a week. And we thought the reason that we asked for funding for a nurse practitioner was that we didn't think we could rely on volunteer physicians for 2 nights a week. It's a lot to ask for a small community of physicians. And so this nurse practitioner will do case management, which helps address the continuity of care that the physicians have identified as a need, and will also provide health care.
And you hired this person and she's going to start relatively soon?
She came Tuesday night to our clinic and worked with Dr. Pitts a little bit and got right into it. And we will be opening the clinic as soon as we make sure we have everything in place, which should be just in a few weeks.
You mentioned the other similar clinics that are operating in the state. How many are there?
There are 8 that are part of this federal funding, and then 2 more that are in the startup phase. The 8 clinics are a little bit different. They're not all clones.
Tell us a little bit about what's similar and what's dissimilar. I assume its location and the medical infrastructure, the number of physicians, is there a hospital, all are things that impact on what form it takes.
Some of the clinics are part of the hospital. For instance, Fletcher Allen Healthcare has a 2-night-a-week free clinic that is part of Fletcher Allen. The Good Neighbor Clinic in White River Junction is a completely separate clinic and was the first clinic in the state. It has a lot of physicians from Dartmouth, Mary Hitchcock, so they're able to be open 3 nights a week. Their federal funding has allowed them to open a dental clinic, which is a big need that all of us see, and it's wonderful that one clinic is able to go ahead and actually open a dental clinic. Randolph has a clinic that is also part of the hospital structure, and they are serving at, their clinic itself is a screening mechanism, and then the people who are identified as needing care are absorbed or taken care of by the hospital clinics. And their federal funding pays for screenings in workplaces that don't offer health care, so they hope to go out and identify healthcare problems that will then be funneled through this doorway to health care.
Has there been discussion of a dental clinic locally?
We would really love to do that. We haven't done much with that. We did a while back, before we moved to this model, have a dentist who was living in Addison County temporarily, Debony Hughes, who did work for us in Kim Montgomery's office, and she's gone back to Washington, D.C., and I'm sure that it's something that we'll be looking at.
Well, let's talk about you for a second as an individual. I believe your personal and professional background prior to this role you've been involved in organizations that have helped children. Mary Johnson Children's Center. You still up until recently anyway, maintained involvement in Parent-Child Center. Maybe you still do. So this is very new to you as a role. Why did you jump into this role, and what have you learned from it, and how have you grown?
Oh gosh,
it's just, we got 10 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Well, my degree when I first graduated from college, lifetimes ago, was in medical technology, and I worked as a medical technologist. And I have worked in other aspects of the healthcare field, so that part isn't completely new. I at least know some of the language, the vocabulary. And I did work in Mary Johnson Healthcare. That was or Children's Center. That was my first job in the social service sector. And I loved it, and I have been at the Parent-Child Center for a long time. I'm no longer employed there, but I still work out of there part of the week. That's how I got involved in this project, actually, when Cheryl Mitchell had been part of the planning group, and when she no longer had the time to be part of the planning group, I got involved and helped write the first grants and get those first projects
So your
going.
involvement in social services in this community really kind of helped tie you into all the agencies that are now integral parts of it.
Yes. Social service agencies are a big part of the planning group, a part of a group that has seen the need and takes care of some of the people that we see.
Tell us about the Community Health Services Board. Is it formal in that it has bylaws and a defined structure? Are some of the people that you touched on at the very beginning still involved? And if someone was watching and this sounded like something they'd be very interested in, who should they contact and how could they get involved?
Well, they could contact me. I'm sure they could let Ron know, or Rachel Guy, who is at Planned Parenthood. My number is 388-0137. And just to tell you a little bit about the board, they call themselves, and always have called themselves, a hands-on working board, because they are very involved in what we do and how we do it. And yes, quite a few of the people who were involved back at the beginning are still with us. We aren't a completely separate, we aren't our own 501c3 or our own nonprofit. We work under Addison County Community Action's umbrella. But we do have our own bylaws and consider ourselves a separate entity. It just makes sense for a small nonprofit to be under the umbrella of another.
Right.
And it makes sense, I should say, it's a cost saving. It's a benefit to us, and hopefully it isn't a detraction to them.
Now, you mentioned a minute ago your phone number is 388-0137. So if anyone is interested in learning more about your services or making an appointment or volunteering, that's the number they should call.
All of the above.
All
right?
of the above.
Yeah.
And before we run out of time, do you want to talk a little bit about your volunteer recognition ceremony, which, based on when this show will be aired first, will be tomorrow night, Friday night, April 4th.
Right.
Want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. We would love to have people come to this. It's our way of saying thank you and just giving a public tribute to all the people who work as volunteers in the clinic. Obviously, we couldn't be doing this without them. So we'll be at Kirk Alumni Center from 5 to 7. And Ron, you are going to be showing The Forgotten Frontier, which is a 1929 silent film, a documentary about an outreach public health program that we think might be interesting for people to see. And it's, 1997, a lot later, but we're doing a lot of public health outreach too, so that's the tie to that documentary.
So we're going to recognize some of the volunteers, have some refreshments,
That's
watch a little movie, and
go home.
Go home.
Yeah.
Good.
Getting back to the issue of volunteers, you are interested in anyone who's interested in volunteering, whether they could serve as a provider or nurse practitioner, PA, physician, and see patients, or I'm sure that there are administrative and clerical kinds of duties. Could you expand on that again, just in case anyone...
Sure.
I have to say your phone number again, but...
Well, we could use nurses, nurse practitioners, physicians, and we could use people just to staff the front desk, to do some data entry on the computer, to do the kinds of things that you need to do in order to make sure charts are complete and well cared for. So it would be great. We take anyone. I might also mention, if we have a minute, that we also have become a confidential and anonymous AIDS testing site.
Oh, great, great. Well, it looks like we're almost out of time. Thank you, Sonia, for being our guest today.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this week on Health Matters.
Hello and welcome to Health Matters, a show produced by Porter Medical Center about health, wellness, long-term care, and policy issues. And our guests today are Beth Burnham and Nancy Harvey from Cooperative Insurance here in Middlebury. And I'd like to welcome you both to Health Matters.
Thank you. We're really excited to be here.
Great, great. Why don't we begin by letting each of you take a few minutes and talk, before we get into your wellness program and what you're doing that's health related, talk about yourselves, a little bit about your backgrounds and whatever you want to throw in about personal life and what you do at Co-op.
Okay, I'll start first. In my current position at Co-op, I provide support to our agents across the state of Vermont and New Hampshire on their agency management systems. So I work with computers most of the day, and I'm currently in the process of finding them another agency management system. Plus, I'm starting to work on a new project that we're getting into where we're completely changing the software. Co-op will completely change the way we do business right now, the way we process things. And I've been with Co-op for 6.5 years. And I just recently, end of last December, moved into a brand new home in New Haven with my fiance and my 3 cats.
Great.
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Nancy?
I've been with Co-op for the last 4.5 years. I also work in the computer or information systems division. I'm a computer programmer, and I've worked a bit on the agency management system that Beth has talked about a minute ago. I live in Rochester, and my husband has worked at Co-op for 20 years, so he thought it would be a great idea if we could both drive over that Middlebury Gap together in the winter. And I have 2 daughters, Molly, who's 9, and Megan, who's 6.
Great, great. Well, that's super. Well, our topic today is the wellness program, the health and wellness program at Cooperative Insurance. So, Nancy, why don't you give us a little background on how the Wellness Committee was formed and a little bit about its history.
Well, in 1992, Co-op participated in a seminar called the We Care Seminar. It was to help Co-op kind of get a focus on some of the areas that needed improvement. We found we needed to improve in the area of customer service. So we took a step back a little bit and tried to think about how we might provide better customer service. And of course, the best customer service starts with the person who the customer deals with. And we felt that if there was a way that we could maybe reduce the stress in some of our employees' lives, that they might be happier and healthier mentally and emotionally and actually be more productive in the end and meet everyone's needs. So several people thought that forming a wellness committee might be something that would achieve those results. So they formed a temporary committee that then was so popular it achieved permanent status about 9 months later. So we've been really happy with it. The mission of the wellness committee is to provide emotional, mental, and physical well-being. So it kind of looks at all angles of a person's life to help bring a better balance to everyone's day.
So it was really intended initially as sort of an employee benefit in a way in terms of enhancing the environment of Co-op Insurance itself internally, thereby improving your ability to serve your external clients, the public.
Yes,
but it's really looking inward, basically,
that's right.
in a way.
And it's, yeah, I think it's really good to be introspective and not just try to solve problems with a piece of equipment or a piece of furniture, or, you know, to really take a closer look at people's lives, because the people are the business.
And about how many members of the committee are the Employee Wellness Committee? Is it a small group?
It fluctuates between, I would say, 8 and 9 members who come in on a rotating basis. We try to make sure that each department is represented, so that each department has a say in what happens with the wellness committee. So the claims department and the underwriting department and the information systems departments all have representatives.
Okay.
And it's then coordinated at the top by our human resources director, Mark Villeneuve, who makes sure that, you know, we stay in a consistent direction.
Right. So how do you choose the topics that you're going to surveys, or how do you figure out from inside the co-op agency what the next workshop's going to be, or what some of the interests are? Do you survey the employees?
Yes.
And
Since it's based on providing this service to the employees, wellness for the employees, we do go to the employees to find out what they want.
For their input.
Yes, periodic surveys.
Beth, what have been some of the programs that you offered?
Well, since the program was started back in 1992, we've had several speakers come in and talk to us on a variety of topics. Some which include, we had someone come in and speak to us about AIDS. Someone talked to us about breast cancer, prostate cancer. We've had people come in and speak about ergonomics, making sure we're all comfortable while we're working all day long. We've had many different contests over the year to try and get people excited about wellness, and sometimes people do a little more when there's competition involved. You know, it motivates them a little more. We formed walking clubs, and that seemed to be pretty popular. We had groups sign up, and we formed teams, and we had a team member who was like a cheerleader, would try to get everybody excited and kind of get on them a little bit.
There's a camaraderie and morale building to this as well. So you're actually trying to address some of the health issues of your staff potentially, and through this process, you're getting to know each other on a different level, and maybe feeling a little bit more like a team. And
yeah, because the groups they formed, it wasn't the people maybe you
in
had
your
contact
department.
with every day, all day long. You got to be with people that you didn't necessarily know that well, and you got to work together and have some fun with them.
So as an employer, if there are other major employers watching this, people who human resources department or managers, it's something that think about in terms of a relatively inexpensive way to improve employee morale, communication, teamwork, giving them a project to work on of this nature together. Which ones, Nancy, have been what you would term successful? And I don't know how you define success, if it's because the room's packed with people, or maybe only 5 people showed up, but these people thought it was the best thing that they had ever experienced. Which ones have been successful and why?
Well, our wellness reimbursement program has been one of our most successful programs. And what we try to do with that is provide an incentive for the employees to pursue an individualized exercise or wellness program on their own outside of work. One of the ways that we do that is the company will reimburse the employee up to $100 at a 50% rate for wellness or health-related materials or equipment or participation fees. So some of the things that are covered are like exercise equipment, treadmills, exercise bicycles, maybe Stairmasters, or membership to health clubs in the area, such as the PowerFlex Gym or Vermont Sun, something like that. Exercise equipment beyond that, or sports equipment, which would entail skates, bicycles, running shoes, things that would help you do an activity. And then the third thing would be program fees, such as skating rink fees if you were a hockey player or an ice skater, or a ski pass if you wanted to go ski at the Middlebury Snow Bowl or something like that, or cross-country skiing in the winter. So that's really a great program. And in 1996, we had about 40% of our employees participate with an actual payback of $81 per employee. And it's just a great way to get that new bike or buy those new shoes. I know Beth has used the funds to pay for her membership at the PowerFlex gym, and she's also purchased some inline skates. And I kind of used it in a family way, and a mental as well as a physical health. I have a young daughter, as I said, a 6-year-old who's not that proficient at bike riding, and I wanted to do family bicycle rides. So I was able to have Co-op help me purchase something called a trailer bike, which attaches to my bike.
Oh, okay.
And that way she's not wobbling in the road.
Sure.
And we can ride together. And I get the extra workout when she's sitting still saying, I don't want to pedal.
Wow. Where do you buy these?
Actually, you can buy them right here in town.
Oh, well, that's good. It's a Middlebury Television show.
Yes, but I've also used mine for horseback riding helmets, ice skates, and running shoes. So it's just been great for me.
So this is not a one-time $100. This is $100 a year.
Every year.
Wow.
And
that's very
that's
generous.
approved by our board of directors. But so far, they've been, extremely pleased with the results that they've seen.
I think the results might even be higher. I think people tend to forget it's there, and we try to remind them and remind them. But I think they might purchase something and say, well, that might not be under that. But
Right.
We're really quite liberal in our interpretation of what might be related to wellness or exercise. Some of the other things that have been successful are yearly immunization clinics for the flu. Dr. Collier comes in and gives anyone who wants one a free flu shot. And gives you that fresh apple incentive to go through.
He probably gives you a fresh apple, right?
Yes. And believe it or not, we have a large participation in that program. And that benefits everyone. It keeps everyone healthier, and the whole office benefits from less flu passing around. We also have screening clinics that happen each year for blood pressure, cholesterol, and diabetes. And we're quite excited about that because each year our results improve, so that people take those results and pay attention to them and then try and modify their eating behavior or exercise behavior to come up with the appropriate results. So that's a good program. And then finally, we celebrate National Health Day in May every month. And some of the programs we've offered on that, again, this is a day for us all to get together as employees and do a group activity and build the teamwork and share experiences. This year we had Bev Burke from Middlebury College come in and give us a great seminar on stress management. And after that we had a potluck lunch that featured healthy foods. So we could all share our low-fat recipes with everyone, and people could try things out that they might not have tried before. We've done hula hoop contests, poker walks, a variety of different things, and that's been really popular.
That's super. And do you have any mechanism for the committee to get feedback from the employees in terms of how the program is going, or suggestions for future? Is there a suggestion box, or is there a contact person that they know they could contact for suggestions or ideas?
they can go, we do have a suggestion box, and they can put their suggestions in there. They can go to any committee member. Or we also have a variety of different committees around the company, a communications committee, an employee meeting committee, and there's usually many sources that they can relay their feelings on the wellness.
So Beth, how do you make the final decision in terms of which programs you actually offer? There's a fair amount of effort that goes into this, I assume, in terms of getting a date, getting a place, getting a speaker, doing all the logistics, setting up the audiovisual equipment. So I assume you really want to be sure that you have good participation.
Well, one way to be certain that we have good participation is the employee meeting that we have at Co-op, which is once a month. People are required to attend that, and about twice a year the employee meeting committee will try to get in a speaker to talk about a wellness issue. This past April, a gentleman, Mike DeRocha from the Vermont Department of Labor and Industry, came and spoke about carbon monoxide poisoning. So he came in and spoke about that, and most everybody was there, and it was a very educational seminar. So that's one way to guarantee, of course, that you're going to have a lot of people, and you can certainly plan because it's always held on the same day of that month. But as far as the other events go, you know, it's always a challenge to try and find something that everyone is interested in. And you're really never going to find the one thing that everybody wants to do. But you're always trying to come up with fresh ideas, and you kind of put them out there, and
use questionnaires and
Yep.
sign-up sheets to
Right.
measure people's attendance or interest.
Yeah, and you put them out there and you usually get a pretty good turnout. And then basically the committee itself meets about once a month.
Mm-hmm.
And they brainstorm and try and come up with ideas, and if they feel really good about that idea, they'll just go ahead and put it forward. If it needs approval, they'll go to management. If they're not really sure what the responses will be, they'll go back to their department and get input from them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, do you have these during work hours or on evenings or both?
During work hours.
The actual workshops?
Sometimes it might be during a break at work, but
Mm-hmm.
And then some we have
workshops
sponsor in the evening so
Yes.
that are open to the public, that,
Mhm.
so more people can attend.
Okay. Are you aware of other companies in the area that participate in this type of program, Nancy, other than Co-op Insurance?
Well, I know that BF Goodrich in Virgins has a wellness program. I'm not sure if that's what they call it.
Mhm.
Geiger of Vermont here in Middlebury, Vermont Mutual Insurance, and they're located in Montpelier.
Mhm.
And of course, we believe that Porter Medical Center must have one in place.
We do have that.
And we found that people are really great about sharing information with what's going on in their company or what's happening with their programs. Some of our employees have spouses who work in companies that have wellness programs, so they'll bring home an idea from their spouse, or bring into work an idea from their spouse. And that really seems to help keep the ideas fresh and moving throughout.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever have formal or informal conversations, meetings with some of the other wellness folks at other companies to talk about what's worked at Geiger versus what's worked at Co-op versus what's worked?
We don't as a committee, but I believe Marg Villeneuve, our human resources person, has passed information back and forth and does those communications.
Share each other's successes.
Right. So as a permanent member of the committee, she's in on all the parts that move along and the different ideas that work and the ones that aren't as popular.
Now, do you think that, have you heard that some of the people who participate in these programs that are specifically about health topics, does it help them in their work, as other than their frame of mind and a personal, is what they learn in some of these about cancer or health or wellness, does it contribute to their work as an insurance person directly, or is it more just a tangential kind of benefit?
Probably more tangential, because we don't offer health insurance from our company.
Okay.
And medical insurance.
So it's really more of a benefit.
Right.
Now, we've talked a lot about internal things at Co-op, and now how about you've broadened it into the community in the last year or two, at least that I'm aware of. How can the general community participate in your wellness committee efforts if you're not a Co-op employee? Is there any way that people can participate?
Yes, in the past year we started co-sponsoring health clinics with Porter Medical Center, and I believe they're being held about once a month, and I believe they started last fall. Some of the topics that have been discussed have been your healthy back, stress management, diabetes management,
skin cancer,
and
cardiovascular disease, I think, was one.
Yes.
Dr. Shapiro.
And coming up in August is going to be nutritional meals on the go. And those they're free to the public, open to the public. Porter Medical Center is responsible for finding the presenter, and Co-op Fire Insurance provides the facility.
Right. It's actually, from my perspective as the one who's been working with Kathleen Rule at Co-op about this, it's been a really positive and mutually beneficial relationship, because we have access to a lot of people who can make the presentations, and you have access to lots of people who are interested in hearing the presentations, and the extra benefit is your facilities and your other things that you contribute. So it's been a really nice collaboration, and I've been amazed at some of the turnout for some of these.
Yes.
We had one on if either of you were at the one on skin cancer.
Yes, we both were.
But I never realized how many people were interested in skin cancer. I really thought that we're going to have to pay people to come, but it was packed. And apparently Fred Niffen, who's a doctor in our emergency department who gave the presentation, people were coming up to him. They lined up afterwards. And I
Yes.
think they were showing him moles on their hand, and does this look like a problem? And so it was pretty amazing that.
I think he was there for at least an hour after the
Right.
presentation, just responding to people's questions.
Yep.
And that's what the great part is about this, that people in the community can get information without having to maybe visit their family doctor.
Right.
They can learn more without having to make a trip in. They can
Right.
hear kind of what other people are looking at, and I think it's great that Porter Medical Center provides these experts and provides the resources for people.
Well, and I think that people sometimes, when they're visiting their family doctor, for some reason think that doctors are busy people, and I really don't want to bother him with a silly question about this mole or this pain or whatever. And this forum really invites people to know that this person is up here specifically to do that, and they're going to be here for a few hours, and they don't have any place to go, or other patients waiting to be seen. That this is your opportunity to really have a conversation and realize that these are men and women like the rest of us, and that they can be approached and questions can be asked. And
He was especially great the way he personalized it by talking about his father. Was it his father, I believe?
Yes.
And so you certainly realize he was a human being, that he faces everything we face every
Sure.
day.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Plus, he spent a fair amount of time in the sun.
Himself.
Yes.
So that's great. So
It's also nice to have you coordinate some of the resources, like the Parent-Child Center in Middlebury, to bring in, maybe people that we don't see on an everyday basis, and provide the resources for people to talk about issues in parenting, and have an open forum for people to express their concerns. And I think that has helped quite a few of the parents in our organization.
How about other ways that you reach out into the community, other programs, other community activities where co-op has a presence or some sort of involvement? What are some of these?
Co-op is very interested in supporting different fundraising efforts by the March of Dimes organization, by the American Heart Association. So we try to focus our efforts in walkathons where we can work together as a team. The Oktoberfest in October for the American Heart Association has been worked on by several of our employees. They have worked as committee members to help organize the walk, in addition to organizing the walking team. At the March of Dimes walk in the spring of each year, the company pulls together and holds a large lawn and bake sale on one day and contributes all of the proceeds towards the fund that we then pass along to the March of Dimes. So people get a chance to clean out their closets and their drawers, and we can offer goods at a really reasonable price, because our main goal is just to raise money for March of Dimes. We also hold a lot of in-house raffles where our employees raffle off their services, and we have a lot of really talented people or industrious people who work at co-op. So you could win a raffle to get your vehicle washed or cleaned on the inside. You could win a raffle and get a homemade pie or a wall hanging or another craft that somebody else in the company has made, and these are really sought after items. So it's great to see what's going to happen each week for the raffle. People are really into what's being raffled and the amount of money raised. And then for the walk itself, it's always important for us to have a large team involved, a large team out there, and we try to walk together or push each other forward.
Sure.
It's a lot of fun.
And again, the morale building and the camaraderie and
exactly that focused goal that we can all work together towards.
Good humored, making fun of each other.
Yes.
And that's very important. Now, how about the future? Where is co-op going with this? Are there additional things that you've talked about in your committee, you've dreamed about doing someday? Do you have large aspirations for changing or adding, or are you just going to pretty much stay on this course for a while?
Well, some will stay the same. We're looking a little bit this year into maybe adding a cultural aspect to the Wellness Committee, maybe a membership at a theater or a corporate membership level at a theater or theater group or performance area, so that employees can then buy tickets at reduced cost and meet that cultural aspect of our wellness.
So it's a very eclectic kind of broad definition of wellness and health that at Co-op, but again, it's a lot of it is focused on the employees who really are the greatest resource that Co-op Insurance has, is the people who work there. I mean, you are a service business, you are a people business, and keeping your employees happy and healthy and motivated and with good morale is really to the benefit of the company as well as to the employees. So this is a win-win situation. I think something that a lot of employers could probably learn from and improve themselves. If someone is interested in learning more about the wellness program at Cooperative Insurance, or just brainstorming with you about it, or even about some of the programs that we've talked about today, how do they get a hold of you guys?
Well, they can reach us at Co-op Fire Insurance at 388-7917. If we're not available, they could talk to Marg Villeneuve in the Human Resource Department.
Okay.
And we'd be really excited and interested in helping anyone out who's looking for information or how to get a program started, or what are the low-cost ways that you can address the wellness issue.
That's great. Well, I think we're basically about out of time. Are there any other, is there anything we missed? I think we pretty well went through the outline, and you've given a very good and comprehensive overview of the health and wellness program at Cooperative Insurance, and have represented the company very well, and we appreciate your taking the time today and joining us on the show and giving us some information. And we're looking forward to working with you and Kathleen Rule and all the folks there with more workshops. And I think we'll have something in the newspaper coming up about the nutrition workshop in August. So
that's great.
Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on Porter Medical Center's Health Matters.